way forward. We'll rise up stronger, nothing to ignore. No more shame, no blame to take. We reclaim our pride for our children's sake. We've heard the lies for far too long, but now we're marching and we're strong. No more shame, no blame to take. We reclaim our pride for our children's sake. And we're strong. No more silence, no more fear. Our voices rise, the message clear. We're breaking free from the chains that they forged. The weight of guilt, we don't carry it no more. No white guilt is the way forward. We'll rise up stronger, nothing to ignore. No more shame, no blame to take. We reclaim our pride for our children's sake.
I see the world through a broken lens, any white lies in every defense. But they tell me I'm born with a guilty soul, but deep down I know there's a truth they stole. They stole. White well-being, can you hear me scream? In a world where the light fades to black, my ground, won't turn my back. Going free is the dream I hold tight. In the darkness I'll fight for the light. The pathogens infect my mind. They try to twist the truth I find. But I'll confront, I'll challenge, I'll dispel. I won't let their lies be my living hell. White well-being, can you hear me scream? In a world where the light fades to black, I'll stand my ground, won't turn my back. Going free is the dream I hold tight. In the darkness, I'll fight for the light. The pathogens infect my mind. They try to twist the truth I find. But I'll confront, I'll challenge, I'll dispel. I won't let the lies be my living hell. They wanna break me, make me feel small, but I'll rise above. I'll tear down their wall with the archetype of Western kind in my heart. I'll reclaim the love they try to tear apart. White well-being, can you hear me scream? In a world where the light fades to black, I'll stand my ground, won't turn my back. Going free is the dream I hold tight.
Shall I begin singing? Because that worked last time. Is there sound coming through your speakers? Nameless One says it's not just him. Oh, it's working now. Thank you, Cass. So I have no idea why. Everything done the way that it's always done. But let me say again, we are rolling in, going free, Church of the West. You saw the banner at least, right? You saw the banner. You just didn't hear me say it. And I was just checking the different platforms as I waited for you all to tell me if there was sound or not. Fortunately, we have sound now. Bad Goya's in. SN says, Happy Shaka Khan. And Happy Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa. Yeah, they're saying Happy Kwanzaa all over. And what was that guy? Ron Everett was his name. A lot of people don't like to talk about where that came from. Ron Everett. And he was the leader of a Black Power movement in the United States. Except, of course, you know that YouTube is listening and they want to control speech. YouTube does. And so maybe check this out for yourself because maybe I have it wrong. But Ron Everett, according to my reading, was the leader of a Black Power movement called, I think it was United Black Slaves. And their chief rival was the Black Panthers. And they had some bloody shootouts. He was suspected of murders, accused of murders, accused of rape and torture of his own followers. He collaborated with the FBI against the Black Panthers to have a bunch of them sent off to prison. He eventually got convicted. And for what? Maybe there was some rape. Maybe there was a little bit of torture. Maybe there was a little bit of torture on his followers. And while he was in prison, I think he might have changed his name to some African, who the hell knows. And then when he got out of prison, he was immediately given a high-paying job as a professor at a university in California by anti-whites, because in the anti-white narrative, that's about as anti-white as you can get, as Ron Everett. And so he created this pan-black, they say pan-African, so what they mean is pan-black. So it's a global black holiday that is created by a Black nationalist, a Black power movement individual, if you read anything that he wrote. And of course, the regime celebrates it because that's anti-white as it gets, right? That's about as anti-white as it gets. And so the regime celebrates it, and it's Happy Kwanzaa on Fox and all over the place. And of course, Shaka Khan has been around for a long time. No surprise there. Less than 2% of the population, and then a percentage of that percentage actually celebrates it. But yeah, it's anti-white to shove it in your face and say it's tantamount to white people and their holidays. In other words, it's just a way to push ours aside, to push our holidays aside, to white erase us. And again, I'm going to mention right at the beginning why the concept that we push, white erasure, is infinitely superior to the other concepts that are out there to address what's happening to us. Because you don't have to kill off white people to achieve white erasure. You don't have to kill us off. You don't even have to encourage us not to have children, which of course the anti-white narrative does. And we're going to be talking about that here in just a moment, about now that the tech bros, mask off, trench coat off. Do you remember doing that from about 5-6 years ago? The trench coat is off, not just mask off. The trench coat's open, and they're exposing what I told you about. Remember? Did you ever hear anywhere else before me? You didn't. Anywhere else about how Indians are the new, shit. And when I first started streaming, I told you all, Indians are the new managerial class. And they are, and in fact, we're going to go all the way back to Born Guilty. I've got a passage in Born Guilty all the way back in the day about this. So I am there first, as always, and right. And now you're going to have a bunch of latecomers that are going to come in, people who are really good at writing, really sus SOBs is what they are. And they're going to come in and they're going to say, I've been telling you all along. And yet you can look at their streams, and there was no all along. There was no mention of these people, but the Pope of the Church of the West told you, and is right once again. So the tech bros that they're being fondly referred to now, and of course this is big tech and little tech, and a whole assortment of people. Obviously Vivek, and he's kind of at the center of this. But there are a bunch of other, big Andreessen, and a lot of anti-white people. A lot of anti-white people. In fact, there was an interesting article about Andreessen a couple of weeks ago about when they went to a meeting with Biden, and they were told, "Hey, there are going to be all these strictures and everything." And we could maybe pull it up and take a look at it on tech. And that's at least for Andreessen when he said, well, for him, that was it. He was supporting Trump after that. Trump needed the money, and so he had to get in bed with these people. And so now what we knew, what I've been telling you all along, how long have I been telling you about? I've gone to the literal bills become law, where these people, they come over, they get grants and loans that are forgiven to start businesses and to take over entire industries. And it's not just people from India. I mean, you saw it happen with Koreans. You saw the same thing happen with Vietnamese. It's anything to white erase white people. But back to that point, so that I can circle around as we begin here. And we'll get to the question of the day in just a moment. 2 questions of the day. And that is that white erasure can take place without getting rid of the current white population at all, without even encouraging us to not reproduce, which not only do they encourage us to not reproduce, and we just had another slew of advertisements where the articles where they're saying, should you have kids? And it's white people. It's always white people. And then the articles, benefits of a bigger family, and it's non-white people and all the imagery. And then you look at after Trump 2016, when Trump got elected and white people had a better perspective about the future, they started producing children. Like, that's what it is. It's not about the money. It's about identity. White people produced families with 15 children when we were poor as could be. So it's about identity. It's about what you feel about yourself and your people, what you come from, and what you can do to add to the glory of that people. Everybody out there telling you that, oh, you don't need a people, you're just an individualist. You notice that's only being preached to white people. It's never preached to Jews, never. It's never preached to Indians. We're going to be talking about them today a lot. It's never preached to any other group. It's only preached to white people. You see this Jordan B. Peterson, and he's out there all the time, and whenever he has an event somewhere, he shows up. The audience is 99% white people. Why? Because a couple of reasons. Number one, that's who they target. That's where the advertisements go for the radical individualism, for this selfish individualism. And then, of course, the white race is perhaps a little bit more inclined than other races of man, perhaps, to individualism. And one might say that that's a benefit to us when we're by ourselves, but it is not a benefit. In fact, it's a bane when we are around the rest of the world, when we are among the other peoples of the world, because they are communal in nature. They work together, and working together works beautifully. It's also moral, it's noble, it's wonderful. But you could take a town of white people, and let's say it's got 5,000 people in that town, and everything, the town's founded by white people. Everything is a projection of our biospirit, what we refer to here in Church of the West as a biospirit. You can think of it as an instinct. Every race, every breed of animal, every type of a given type has a specific instinct. And the whole town is white, is Western. And if you were to double that population, and the new denizens of the citizenry, the new denizens of the town, are non-white, well, how often, just initially, how often are you going to see white people now? White erased. And very quickly, since there are so many non-white people who are present, they're going to have what do we call it? numerical courage, and they're going to begin projecting their norms onto the world around them because that feels good to them to see it bounced back at them. And then when you go out into that town that used to be a reflection of our biosphere, it's now a reflection of another people's. And the amount of time that you see white Western norms, customs, architecture, etc., in the world around you decreases. White erasure. So anti-whiteism is at the root of all of this. We're going to be talking about it. We're talking about how to remedy it. There's only one way to remedy this. Complaining about it, mulling over it, chit-chatting about it, not going to do a damn thing. Over the course of the time that we are together in Church of the West, you can financially gift yours truly. You can do so at Subscribestar. You can do so at Cash App. You can do so at the Dude Bro Moment platform, aka Entropy. You can do so at Premium Rumble. You could do so at DLive and at Odyssey. I'll be keeping an eye on all of these over the course of the gathering. If you would like to, while time is running out for you, to get a tax break, you would like to donate, you can at a 501c3, the foundation for whitewellbeing.com or .org. You can head on over there. You can donate, reduce your taxable footprint, save a little bit of money. When you donate there, I ask you to please indicate yours truly as the source of those funds so that that donation would come to me. I greatly appreciate it. And I believe by the word of the great Fournol, the gifting, the financial gift tab is up and working over at nowhiteguilt.org. So if you want to head on over there, you'll be able to find all of these links and more for financially gifting, including the cryptocurrencies I use, cryptocurrency wallets, as well as a snail mail address, all available over there. Otherwise, I would like to speak with you. I want to know what your comments, concerns are. What are your thoughts when it comes to this? And what do you think? How did we get here? And how amazed at you that once again, No White Guilt, Jason Köhne, is right years and years and years and years and years and years ahead of everybody else. I'm right. Now you're going to hear people with much, much larger audiences saying, I warned you. People owe me an apology. And it's horse shit. Nobody was talking about them. I've been talking about them forever. And they said, Jason, it's not a big, what are you talking about? Why are you? And they just own gas stations. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you what. It's coming. And guess what? How many of them are going to come back and apologize? Oh, zero. Yeah, you're right. Zero of them, not just 0%. Literal zero will come back and apologize when I said this was an issue and that these people will be anti-white. They are anti-white and they will behave in an anti-white way in the positions of power. And indeed they have. Indeed they have, and they will continue to do so. And in fact, we're seeing right now, Vivek, Rome was a multiracial empire created by a multiracial people. Ramaswamy. Remember this guy. Don't ever forget that. All of these white cucks out there, these bloated white cocks. I don't know why they're kind of getting like a little bit of a Russian accent. They're bloated white cocks. And they're like, no, Vivek is amazing. We love him. We love the Vivek. These white cucks, especially these white female cucks in a lot of them, not all of them, of course, in the MAGA movement, we see these people. And they're like, they lean forward and the jugs are hanging out and the hair is all bleached. And they're like buzzing off of the fumes of the chemicals that they use for beauty products and inject into their flesh and everything else. And they're like, he's non-white, so therefore we can't be called racists. He's the best ever. And then they come across me and they're like, wow, German facial structure, muscles, really bright, gotta be in the anti-white narrative. That's a Nazi. Not gonna talk about him, not gonna follow him, not gonna have anything to do with that guy. And so you turn around and what do we have? What do we have now? We have another one of these practical taxidermized Indians stepping up. And he's like, well, the reason why we're going to bring in hordes of India more is because you people suck. You people ultimately suck. And we'll take a specific look at it. I mean, what garbage. What garbage. I got so much to say, and I didn't even have really time to get into and research or anything, but it is what it is. We're celebrating. Ardent Party is in the house. Nameless One is here. Hey, could you all share, especially on X, share the stream on X, share that we are live, because otherwise, you know, the valuable people of our race and valuable people of non-white races who are moral and intelligent, who want to combat anti-whiteism because they see it as immoral and they see it destroying the West. They just can't find us. They just can't find us. There aren't hordes of half-wits who show up and they want to hear just opinions given and not do anything, not participate in the reclamation of our destiny. And they hear me talking like that and they're like, what? I can't do anything. I just want to sit down and hear some views and think I'm smart. So we're going to have to reach people. And of course, the censorship is thick. And we offer an off-world alternative to the anti-white narrative in which you live. And not many people are ready to go off-world, are they? Not many of them. Not many of them are ready and based enough. Not many of them are based enough. Not many of them have the riz like I have and like you have. They're just not ready. They're just not ready. Their riz is not rizzy enough. That's what it is, not rizzy enough. They're not slaying it. They're not slaying it like we slay it. Let's see, Cass is here. Cool. Baba J Magic. Jay Bishop is here. Herman. Hey, Jay is here. Good to see you all. Tom is here. Well, let's take a look at these questions of the day real quick so we can get into these news items. Question one. What would you name your car? I felt like I was just getting ready to go into Monty Python just then. What is your favorite color? What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? What? I don't know that. How does that whole, when they walk up to the bridge, what is your name? What is your quest? What is your favorite color? Right, you can go across. All right, if you could name your car, what name would you give it? Have you already given it a name? Did you ever have a car that had a name? And if so, what was the name? And why did you name it that? Did you have a friend who had a car that you named or the friend named? And if so, why was it given that name? We're all thinking that in these times, we need Christine. And she'll just go out and take out all the anti-whites, even on this glorious Christmas Yuletide, Shaka Khan Kwanzaa that we are in. And Christine will take care of everything. Car, did you have a car? And yes, this no name says, wah, gets fired over into the pit of lava. And I don't know that. Spud is here. Good to see you. Bad Guy is here. Cars. Question number 2. What do you like most about winter? Winter. In the Northern Hemisphere, we are enjoying it. But you may answer the question, even in the Southern Hemisphere. None shall pass. That was the other bridge. None shall pass. So we will speak to your answers if you tag me as No White Guilt. And you'll do so with any of those comments or questions if you would like for me to see what it is. And we will also look to your comments or questions about other things, these stories that we are covering about the tech bros losing their marbles. Winter is lovely. It has some snow, says SN. That it does. It has snow. I love that about winter. You look out, and that's the best part, I think. You look out the window the night before, the day before. Shall I tell you all about my tale about making my baby brothers believe that I could make it snow? Perhaps I should tell that tale. Somebody will have to remind me. Maybe I'll tell that tale before we are done. But it's nighttime and you can't, and it's just everything's normal maybe, or the day before. You wake up and the world is blanketed in snow. I wonder if other races feel the same way about snow that we do. That is just like this pristine, perfect, beautiful blanket. And maybe the snow is still falling. But of course, there are the hazards of that, and the digging out, and the shoveling off the driveway, and the putting the snow down. And here's a tip. If you're walking this winter, or this winter coming, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, and you're walking and you begin to slip, please don't fight it. Don't fight it. Think now to yourself, I will just go down. I will just go down on my ass. I will just immediately squat down. Don't fight it. It's the fighting it that gets your head broken and your arm broken and your sacroiliac broken and whatever else. Your artichoke. I broke my artichoke. Your artichoke broken. You want to just go down as quickly as you can. That's the way. I can't tell you how many times that I've used that strategy. Walking along across the ice. Should I tell you about the slowest high-speed foot chase in the history of man? A guy I was trying to fight many years ago, and I saw him, and he was on the other side of a parking lot. He was with a friend, and I was with a friend, and I was like, hey, because I've been hunting for this, very slandering my reputation and everything. I was like, hey, maybe I'll tell you about that chase. But I was so many times walking, slipping on the ice or the snow, and I just go right down. You go squat right down. You could stay on your feet even in some cases, but if you go right down to your ass probably has some meat on it. I mean, let's face it. You're a little fatty. I've seen you. Little fatty. It's not bad. It could be worse. So if you flop down on your rear, it's kind of like an airbag. And then you just climb back to your feet. But when you do this like windmilling thing, you're like, whoa, I'm going to. And then that's when you wake up in the emergency room and you open your eyes and they're like, your back of your head broke off. Am I going to be okay? Not really. But it broke off. We can't find it. So don't do that. Don't do that. Bad guy. I wish it were cold right now. It was 16 degrees a month ago, yet it was 60 on Christmas. Whoa. Now the snow, no snow this season either. What was, I guess, to amend a little bit of the question, because we can do this. We can do what we want. We're still going to be getting into just a moment. Don't go anywhere. If you think that, wow, he hasn't gotten into the story, the news yet, so I'm leaving, don't go anywhere, because that'll just make you a bitch. Chill out. Chill out. Life is too short for that. But if we can amend the question a little bit, what was the heaviest snow, or one of the heaviest snows that you've been in? What happened? Were you trapped for days? Did you have to eat your roommate alive? What happened? Maybe you could add that. Make sure you tag me. Speaking from my own personal experience, people of other races mostly don't like or even scared of the snow. And SN, I can say that as well from my experiences. White people, all my white friends were the ones who were like, snow! And my non-white friends were like, nah, not going out. Nah, not going out. We would drag them out anyhow. They ended up liking snowball fights and all of that kind of business, but yeah, mostly the white kids. Azumul Clark is in the house. Good to see you, brother. Let's see. Cass says, NWG, what I like about winter, the bugs go to hell in a chilly way, especially down in the South. It's blissful. Yeah, that's true. The bugs are all gone. The spiders are frozen. Cass has named her car Lauren. She had an 05 Mustang that she inherited. There were always problems with it. Mystery. Its name was Mystery Machine. There was a mystery of continuing problems. Yeah, I think a lot of cars that are inherited, they have that kind of issue. Thank you for sharing. How did the one get named Lauren? Is that what it says? And there's Maverick is here. Good to see you. Let's see. Now I've got Search for the Holy Grail on the brain. Dandy Westman is with us. Surprisingly to me, who out there would like to visit for a protracted visit Castle Anthrax? If you don't know, you don't know. If you know, you know. Who would like to visit Castle Anthrax? Wouldn't it be great if that was a B&B? Surprisingly to me, my longtime online Jewish friend mentioned that his sister called Kwanzaa an anti-white holiday. In ongoing conversation, he has intuitively adopted the lexicon. Wow, that's power that you're flexing there, Dandy Westman. That's power. If you're getting a Jewish person to use the lexicon, that's real power. Just remember to make sure that they know they're not white. Since they're not white, we're not Jewish, they're not white. That's how that works. I don't, what is this now? It's all in caps. We all bleed red. Are you making fun of the kind of things that the white cucks out there would say? And I guess another assorted anti-whites. We're all the same. We all bleed red. What is the perfect meme curative for that, ladies and gentlemen? It is not the similarities that make us the same. It's the differences that make us different. I teach you how to win. That's what we do here. Cool Papa J Magic says this stuff with Vivek and Ilan is amazing. Well, what did you hear, brother? Maybe you even know more than I do. And do you have any thoughts? Make sure you tag me. So again, with the questions of the day, keeping my eye on the live chats. Live chat. Daughter of Eve is all alone over there on the live chat on Twitter, on X. Good to see you over there. Tag me as No White Guilt anywhere with the answers to these questions. Did you name a car? What's its name? Why did it get that name? And or someone else you know. And what do you like most about winter? And or the worst winter you've experienced, the deepest winter you've experienced, the most snow. Great show, Jason. Greetings to you, our wonderful brother. Whites build Western civilization. We can't be replaced, says Daughter of Eve. Absolutely correct. We cannot be replaced. Yeah, there is, in that statement of being replaced, not only have we talked about it, and great replacement, and what that means and how psychological warfare actually operates, and the effect on a person when you're using that phrase. But I mean, there is also the subtext there that white people can just be replaced. You can just, we're all just fungible. Just switch another human being, another featherless biped into the slot, and well, you just get the West. Except no evidence of that in all of human history. But why let that stand in your way? So those are the questions. Make sure you tag me when you do have, if you have answers. I have a premium Rumble is up and running. and looking glorious everywhere. It looks like everything is working. Otherwise, share what your Christmas was. Was it a good Christmas? Did the family come over? Did you have a knockdown fight, big brawl at the household? What happened for you and your family? Or was it wonderful? Did you hang out? Was it boring? Okay, so Cass filling in with the rest of it. She had a friend whose name was Lauren, and her mother, she cared for. Every time something went wrong, her mom would yell, "Damn it, Lauren." Okay. So it's stuck with me now. And so that's how she got the name. Marilyn is with us. Good to see you. Spud says, Laura Loomer has actually been very vocal on this whole tech H-1B issue, specifically to white Christian Europeans beyond responsible for building the nation and why it's great. So Laura Loomer was saying that white Christians built Western civilization, and that's why Western civilization is great. Do I get that? Am I getting that accurately from what you wrote? Tag me. Know why I go with the answer to that. That would be interesting. Now, a lot of Jews don't really like the H-1B visa as well, because they then have to compete with other communal peoples. When it comes to white people, it's just like living large, because you have all these white people and they're running around acting and thinking and behaving like selfish individualists. And if you're the only communal people in that mix, you're rocking. Your world is great. You can mow through them. It doesn't matter how many more of them there are. You could be 0.5% and you'd be kicking ass. But when you have to end up competing with communal peoples who, since you have such a large number of them in India, and remember I've talked about this, that you end up with, since there's such a large number, even though it's said that their average IQ is 80, 85, whether that's true or not, I don't know. You have to check it out for yourself, because YouTube is standing outside the door with a hatchet, okay? So even though when you have 1 billion people, that means you're going to have a ton of them who have 100 IQ, who have 110 IQ. And if those are the people that are being imported and working together, then that's going to be serious competition. And so that's why I see a lot of them that don't like the visa program either. Spud says, yes, exactly. So she was high on the West being made by white men and women. Wow, how about that? Is she declining? I know the Trump community, the Trump team kicked her out. Is she less popular now? I mean, I wonder why she's like, white people. Yeah, white people did it. We know. So thank you for acknowledging that, Spud. Thank you for letting us know that she said that. JB from Florida says, sorry for talking shite the other day. My apologies. Merry Christmas to you. Stand-up thing to do. Accepted. Welcome back. Welcome back into the fold, my friend. Stand-up thing to do. JB from Florida. Thank you for that. Dandy Westman says, I named my car Ellen for no other reason than that a part of my plate number randomly has ELN. Well, isn't that interesting? Now, I wonder if Kate is going to share her car names, because she has car names. So we'll see. Jay Bishop says, we took a big Christmas photo on a bit of a slope. My stepdad was drunk. Oh no. And fell forward onto of the two grandsons. Oh my God. There are 8 photos taken that show him going down. Those would be the ones that I would keep. You know, like the through the air. That would be what I would keep. The coldest weather I've ever seen was here in my hometown, says Bad Guy. -14. Holy that is some Hyperborean anguish. And the warmest I've seen was 97. Warmest ever was in Orlando, 114. Kentucky and Midwest weather is wacky. Janice is with us. Great to see you, sister. Robert is here. Says, ate like a piggy. I was at the gym today, and it's already started. I mean, maybe not necessarily the New Year's resolutions, but maybe. And, oh my God, just get the hell out. Man, that guy No White Guilt's all heart. He is all heart. He is totally all heart. I'm in there yelling at pieces of equipment. And they're all intimidated by it. Juliet says, No White Guilt. I didn't see that. What is it? Oh, didn't see the precise quote from Loomer, but she's 100% used the term anti-white. Well, that's awesome. Somebody should tell her to come hang out over here. I'll talk to her. We're going to set that table, though. I'm white positive. We're doing everything that's good for white people, which doesn't include fighting Israel's wars. So we'll set that table up first. But otherwise, should be fine. I know one of the Kate's current automobile is called Linus. And I don't know why. I do know that it has a really nice hood. I have seen her on issues talking about Loomer. I disagree with her on, but she's actually been good about who and what America is. Well, that's cool. I did not know that. I don't watch her. I was years ago. I heard all of the wild Zionist stuff. And because I have principles, I'm like, nah, no association. Other people out there who claim to care about white people, they have no principles because they actually care about themselves. That's who they care about, not anybody else. So they will cozy up to any black nationalist, Jewish nationalist, Zionist folks. They'll cozy right up to them. Not me. Popcorn Power is in the house. All right. Remember, just tag me. RJJ is here. So if I missed you, we can get back to it. Let's get into this, though, because Vivek, what a slimy POS. People are, maybe you shouldn't be hard on him. You know, maybe. Like he's going to ever want to be friends with me. He's not Skibbity. That's all I can say. Let's put him up on the screen, though, and see. And then we'll take a look at his actual, I think I might have even had a Times of India article that came up. What is this one? Oh, this is Yahoo. Vivek Ramaswamy dragged. Okay, more slang. After wild rant on how American workers suck. How's that on the screen? No, that's too big. I need to be. There we go. The question of the day will return shortly. You remember what it is. You can answer it at any time. You can tell others if they show up. What are the questions of the day? Vivek Ramaswamy thinks tech companies are choosing foreign-born workers over American ones because our culture is too chill, too mediocre, and doesn't uplift dorks like him enough. This is Yahoo News? I did not know. I haven't read this. All right. Well, that's obviously, if those are his claims, that's not what's happening. And it's a perfectly incorrect read of a self-serving, race-conscious Indian person. Remember, once again, he went to Italy and he told his children in the news that Rome was not something that white people, the Roman Empire was not something that white people created. It was multiracial. So never forget that. The former Republican presidential candidate and upcoming Department of Government Efficiency co-lead offered his 2 cents on the discussion surrounding the future of American-born labor in Silicon Valley. Quote, a culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. Stop, full stop. That's not what happens in America. So I've got his tweet, and I don't know how much of this they're going to share. That's kind of at the center of it. If that is, and I surmise it is, although it's I don't see it just skimming it, but maybe it is, or from another one. But full stop. That's not what happens in America. Everyone celebrates the valedictorian. Everybody thinks highly of the valedictorian. Everyone thinks highly of those who are expert at mathematics. Everyone does. So what we have here right off the bat is a self-serving pretext for an objective that we kind of already know. Where he's going, but we'll see how this develops. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World. What the hell's that? Or Zach and Slater over Screech in Saved by the Bell. Or Stefan over Steve Urkel in Family Matters. This guy watched a lot of TV. To be but you know what I kind of wonder? I kind of wonder if he had some help. Wonder if he had some help. Will not produce the best engineers, Ramaswamy wrote on X. So then we've got to get the best engineers from the country that produces the best engineers, India. And that's where the record skips. Because the most brilliant human construction on the planet happens in India, right? I remember when they were building the king in the king prince. What is he called? And he wanted the best engineers in the world. I remember reading these articles on this to build those islands out into the ocean and to build those skyscrapers and where did he go? Where did he go? America and Europe to get them. And they did all of these names of white people, lead engineers, the lead engineer firms. I mean, hell, China for the Olympics before last, they built that giant basket. They went, and of course, check all this out for yourself. And finally, after interviewing a lot of different firms, the German firm that won was the one that included a Chinese guy on the staff. Which is not to say that there aren't very talented Indian people, because there are. A culture that once again prioritizes achievement over normalcy, excellence over mediocrity, nerdiness over conformity, hard work over late. No, it's the conformity of the communal activity. And I can speak personally from all of the good Indian people, some bad, some good, that I knew growing up. That's the work that we have cut out for us. Rather than wallowing in victimhood and just wishing or legislating alternative hiring practices into existence. He concluded. Ramaswamy, who is an Indian American, was immediately lambasted by the left and the right for his pitiful, presumptuous take. Wow, this author is really going after him. Good. There's nothing wrong with American workers or American culture. Former Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley replied. Oh boy, she fell hard, didn't she? So she's really trying to suck up. She came out hard as, I was brown in a white world. Oh, it's the anti-whiteism with you too? You were brown in a white world? And then we saw the pictures of her and she couldn't have been a lighter brown. But she was brown in a white world. It was so hard on her. All you have to do is look at the border and see how many want what we have. We should be investing and prioritizing in Americans, not foreign workers. Vivek, you've accomplished a lot, but it's okay to just say you don't understand American culture. One conservative replied, going on to remind him how racist much of the MAGA base is. How do you like that? These are your white cucks on the right. These are the white cucks on the right. Quote, Neil Armstrong, greater than any Indian to ever live and product of American culture, product of Western kind, chose the less academic Purdue over MIT because he liked the football team, close quote. Okay. We know you are going back, another MAGA supporter replied. I agree with that one. Ivy Leaguer trying to sell math Olympiad over prom queen to the MAGA base amid intense educational polarization is what. Oh my God, said Harvard professor Matt Black. Is this another white cuck? This is going to be the white cuck take. It's all going to be abstractions. That's all it ever is with the white cucks. When white people are being victimized. When white people are victimized, they turn it into an abstraction. When Jews are victimized, it's all about the people of Judaism, whether they practice Judaism or not. If blacks are victimized, they'll talk about black people being victimized. It's all about race then. But if white females are being victimized, then it's women being victimized. If white males are being victimized, it's a fucking abstraction. Nobody knows who's getting hurt here. Nobody knows who the target is. Vivek trashing sports achievement, a culture that celebrates the jock over the valedictorian, and that doesn't happen, is surely going to go down well with his audience. Everyone loves a Yale guy talking about why American culture sucks. That's current affairs editor Robinson. Ramaswamy's views, which seem to be in misalignment with the majority of MAGA, may potentially put his power as Doge co-lead in jeopardy. Fire his ass. Absolutely fire him. It remains to be seen how President-elect Donald Trump will respond to these talking points, if at all. So ultimately what's happening is mainly Ramaswamy, and there are other Indians on X that are, you're finally seeing what I told you so many years ago. And those who were with me before streaming on the internet, making videos on the internet, so many years ago, you're finally seeing how viciously anti-white they can be. I mean, just like wildly crazy anti-white some Indians can be. And apparently it's a decent amount. They're all over X and they're like, your people are scum. You don't work hard. You just want to sit on your egg, on and on and on. On the basis of race. That's what they're talking about. They're mentioning race, the white race. So ultimately what's happening is you've had in the United States, and it's happening across the West, the cream of the crop in India being imported by the conservatives, the white cucks, the left side of the artificial spectrum. They import the Hispanics and the blacks and the Arabs, but the cucks, the white cucks, they import the Indians. And then they tell you, this is going to be so great for you. Folks, I gave speeches on this 20 years ago. 20 years. The thing I'm going to read out of Born Guilty was when I was a child. So then they come to you and they tell you, this is going to be so great for you and this country because we're going to bring in these massively talented people and they're just going to make everything better, except it's a zero-sum game. The jobs at the top are not expanded. The number is not expanded. The white people in those jobs are just white erased. So this is what I was talking about. And I've given, in fact, we had a clip made of me the other day, and big kudos to whoever made that clip. I don't know who specifically made it, but where I'm talking about this, where the anti-whites on the left, hey, they're going to replace you. They're going to white erase you. Sorry. They're going to white erase you with DEI or inclusive. What was the term? Inclusive growth. And any new terms they come up with. And then on the cuck side, they're going to say, oh, you're being white erased with meritocracy, except it's not really meritocracy, is it? Because these people, they come in. And what is it that the owners of the businesses and the shareholders, what are they getting out of them? Slave labor. It's the same slave labor that you get out of the Hispanics that are now putting your roofs on, building your homes, and on and on. It's the same sort of slave. They have to work for less. They're willing to work for less. And then we, the taxpayers, pick up everything else for them. The employer knows, oh, I'll just pay them this bare minimum that but then the taxpayer is going to pay for their food benefits, for their housing benefits. The taxpayer is going to be paying for their children's education, their education. The taxpayers are also going to be paying for the law enforcement to maintain the civility in their neighborhoods. The taxpayer, the lion's share of which is held by the white male, the white family, is going to be paying for the roads that they use and all of the other utilities. And the business owner gets to pay that pittance to them. Same thing, and it achieves this anti-white objective. Directly, indirectly, if white people are standing up and saying, and that's kind of giving you a hint about where we're going with this, that we don't mean ill to any other group of people. We're not going to be victimized anymore. White men are drawing a line in the sand. We and our families are not going to be victimized anymore. We are not going to stand as selfish individualists and continue to get railroaded and run over by anti-whiteism and other communal groups of people. We're going to stand together and say enough is enough. You're going to staff the entire corporation, the entire hierarchy with Indians, whether they're American born or brought over from India, and we'll shut down the corporation by the means that the white race still has at our disposal. If we act in unity, if we don't do that with the moral matrix of white well-being, we're finished. We're finished. I told you, this is the new, I've been writing about it for a long time. I've been giving speeches about it for a long time. This is your new managerial class. This is your new leadership class. And you're seeing them on both sides. What did I say over a year ago? I said on a stream over a year ago, on a Sunday stream, I said, you're going to end up with Indians on both sides of the aisle arguing it out, and white people get to decide which Indians are their Indians. Which Indians are theirs. In a country that we create, not just knock off this, we created it and now somebody else can have it and run it. And no, it is made every moment of every living second as a white person breathes America into existence with our instincts. It doesn't exist otherwise. A place could still be called America. It can still be called the United States. It won't be that anymore if we're not the supermajority. So let's continue. So what they're doing is Elon Musk is coming in and he wants to, these tech bros, they're faced with a problem. The problem is that the magnificent talent of the white man has been undermined. We have been, just like Haktua girl, Haley Welsh, we've been rug pulled. And how has it happened? It's happened with anti-whiteism. A perfect example is yours truly and many of the white men in this audience. I am not going to say exactly, but I have a sizable IQ. Why am I not in a 6 or even 7 figure with perquisites job? Why is my intelligence not unleashed for some corporation, some rich individual? Why not? Why? What happened? Anti-whiteism happened. Everywhere I have gone over the course of my life trying to get ahead, I have faced the bulwark of anti-whiteism. I have faced this moral imperative, this anti-white moral imperative, which is the social morality of the West. This is a story for every white man, every single one who doesn't have one of these like micro socialistic networks, like the good old boys from this fraternity or that fraternity that's left at places like Yale or Harvard, where they can still hook each other up in the background, not on the basis of race, but on the basis of, you know, they went through the hazing, screwing the same goats on the same day. And so now they're going to remember that time. Oh, I remember that time. How drunk were you? I was sober when I did them. So for us, everywhere we go, there isn't just, it isn't this one-dimensional or two-dimensional ineptitude of somebody is at the top and this somebody at the top or this little group at the top is saying, oh no, they can't come in. It's from every angle because it is the social morality of the West. So it's from our peers. It's from our subordinates. It's from our superiors. Everywhere we go, there are roadblocks for white males. Everywhere we go. And now I'm just talking about the roadblocks. I'm not getting into the other aspects even yet. Just talking about the roadblock. There are no opportunities there are no organizations. I remember I was in a job that I had several lunches with some people with power and pretty significant positions. And every single time we had these lunches, I greatly impressed these powerful people. Every time they were like, wow, I was figuring things out for them and even personal things for them. And one day conversation, and this is just one of many anecdotes that every white guy can tell. They're like, well, why don't you just go get some money from like this lodge, or why don't you go to one of these fairs and they have people giving money out so that you can get into a good school here or get connections there. And I told them there are none for white males. There is no group that's saying we'll give to white males. All these groups, in fact, that first of all, you have a slew of organizations that specifically designate money, much of it raised from white people in the country, to send girls to university. Universities are full of females now. To send everything else under the sun, Asians, Asian people, very, Far East Asia, they absolutely hook each other up, pool the money together, send them off to the best schools. And then you had these other organizations that acted like they were indifferent to, at least superficially, to race or to sex or whatever. But then you get right into it and you find out, oh, they've said that they're going to give out this many to blacks and this many to females and this many. No category for white male. No category for white male. So it's everywhere. It's in the ether. This is the battle that has to be fought. The other problem, of course, and this goes much deeper, is that anti-whiteism, the anti-white narrative, teaches white males that they're losers, that we're from an evil people, that we deserve to be walked on, that we deserve to be exploited, that we don't deserve to have these jobs, the high paying, the best jobs, we don't deserve to be able to get into a corporation and fight our way up through the ranks. We don't deserve any of that because we're from an evil people, because white males have always stolen and thieved. And then we see, and I've talked about this for years too, the ramification of young white males watching older white males get shafted. Young white males watching older white males do all the training, do all the education, pay their dues for year after year after year. Then there's no promotion for them. Then the woman shoots by. Then the Indian shoots by that did nothing. What is the consequence for those younger white males? It's Brobdingnagian. It's Olympus Mons. They learn that no matter how hard they work, they're not going to get the pay. They're not going to get the great job. They're not going to get, that's what they learn. That's something that can't be easily unlearned. That's what anti-whiteism has done to the white male. I could go on, literally, no joke, for an hour straight about the injury to white males and how it rug pulls us, how it undermines our drive to excel, to do great. Not the least of which is something I mentioned a little bit earlier. Pouring forth from people like Peterson, who tell you, your people don't matter. Tell the white race that. Your people don't matter. You can't have pride in your people. Everyone derived from a demolished people is radically diminished thereby. People don't step forth into the world out of a void. They step out of their family lineage and the accomplishments of their greater family, their people. That's where they come from. And that drive inside of them, that drive that they feel, is to emulate what their people have done, which means to not just imitate, but take it a step further in success. Do a little bit better than their forefathers did. White males today should be wanting, in all seriousness, should be wanting, since we've built what we believe is the greatest civilization, Western civilization, and so many others believe is the greatest civilization, they keep pouring in, don't they? Instead of just imitating us back home, they keep pouring in. We should be wanting to build on the shoulders of those ancestors in space, in greater achievements terrestrially here on Earth. We're not. None of us are. There's no drive because none of us want to stand on the shoulders of those thieving, maniacal, evil, exploiting white males of our ancestry. So, many consequences in Western civilization. When you take the engine of the West, which is the white male, you take that engine and you pour sand into the petrol tank. You undermine it in every conceivable way. You undermine it morally. You undermine it psychically. You undermine it spiritually. And then, even on top of that, you prop up massive roadblocks. We don't want white males. We want females. We don't want white males. We want Indians. We don't want white males. We want blacks. We don't want everywhere we go in our lives. And then America, rest of the Western countries say, where are the people to do these jobs anymore? Where are they? Well, it doesn't happen like this. It's not a light switch. That's not how the dynamical nature, complex nature of civilization and society functions. It's a dimmer switch. Things are slowly getting dimmer and darker. Actually, that's kind of an appropriate metaphor, isn't it? Things are slowly getting dimmer and darker in all of the Western countries. What do they do? What do they do? I mean, Musk and Andreessen and Swamaswamy, and what do they do now? The engine of ingenuity, of genius, of courage, everything that enabled the white race to conquer everything that sought to conquer us, other tribes of man, wild animals, disease, the climate, everything that sought to conquer us, we conquered. But it's disappearing. Fewer and fewer white men are able to dodge enough of the poison of anti-whiteism and or have benefits of the little fraternity and the little micro-socialism here or there, or maybe homeschooling by parents who won't even use any of the modern homeschooling materials because they have secreted their children away from the pollution that is the world. Fewer and fewer white powerhouses. What do they do now? These countries are still going to want to maintain their status relative to others like China, and that's really what the tech bros, big and little tech, are all about. We got to be able to take on China. We got to be able to take on Russia. What do? Next best. Next best. Got a Band-Aid for you right here. Got a blowout patch for you here. Bleeding pretty bad there, aren't you, America? Kind of a big hole in your abdomen. A little bit of your intestines are spilling out. But we got a Band-Aid. We're going to put that Band-Aid is called India. We're going to put this Band-Aid right over top of it. Everything's going to be fine. What do they call in the UK? A plaster? We're going to put a plaster on it. Everything's going to be fine. We just got to take care of the right here and now. That's what matters. Just the right here and now. So we want to go out and find and import these people who will do these jobs for us. They'll do it for cheaper. They'll do it for fewer benefits, which means that the owners get to keep more and more, and positions them to be more and more competitive with other businesses out there. As long as you allow that door to be open, business owners are going to do what they've got to do. They're going to do what they got to do to compete. This is what they're resorting to. And it makes perfect moral sense because we live under the oppressive anti-white narrative. The social morality of the day is that no concern can be given to the welfare of white people as white people. That, my friends, is immoral. But the welfare of non-white people and concerns for them as non-white, that is moral. So you have the left applauds white erasing more of America, bringing more non-white people in. The left, the people on the left side of the spectrum, anti-whites there, are going to applaud that. The right, white cucks, they're going to applaud it. It's moral. You're doing good by non-white people. All of these white cucks in MAGA, so many of them, not all of them are cucks, but so many of them will demand and be gleeful about, ecstatic, effusive about non-whites being on the stage, your keynote speakers. The whole audience can be this room full of like stencil wearing and glittered up like cowboy hats and low cut tops and Daisy Duke shorts. The whole damn thing can be white, but the stage is going to be non-white. Why? The anti-white moral imperative. I said it the other day, a couple of weeks back now, a month or so now. I said, these tech businesses, their option should be this. The people of America, the white race, needs to step up and say, here's your only option. You train us. You use our tax dollars and the money that you have made by way of being able to operate in this country to train us to do those jobs. End of the conversation. You are not importing a new population because you're going to allow anti-whiteism and by way of the white noir that it inflicts on white people to destroy Western kind and then fix it with more brown and other non-white races. We're not going to allow it. This is the position we have to have. And there, as I mentioned, as I'm saying here, the only remedy to the lack or supposed lack or how severe the lack of tech workers to do these jobs in these big and little tech, their companies, the only remedy for it that will benefit us is to address this moral imperative, anti-white moral imperative in Western civilization. That is the social morality. We address that with the tools that we share in the Go Free Dialogic. Very simple, just concepts that you use when talking about these things. Incidentally, that's exactly how they operate. The concepts. And then you ignorantly use their concepts that yield their outcomes. You have to use different concepts to yield different outcomes. You have to address that moral imperative or nothing else will matter. Nothing else will work. There'll be no political revolution. There'll be none of that's possible. As long as the social morality of the West is anti-whiteism, they win. We lose. You want to fix what's happening with big tech and little tech? You've got to address this moral question. And here's the thing. This is not an issue of that is analogous to historical revisionism, where you're thinking, well, we have to re-educate millions and millions of people to get the result we're looking for. These are mere concepts that you have to learn more jargon at work, most of you. Mere concepts that, if adopted and used to talk about these things, which so many in this community have, and have massive successes in their lives, all of it replicable and scalable. Spread these concepts, and this happens very quickly. Why is that, you ask? Because when you position white people to defend themselves with a moral stance, and now be careful what you might think there, because everything else that you've considered moral to this day, everything else that sort of continues to kind of crutch along sickly, like the morality of the church, right? Or the ethics of the West, or that comes to us from philosophy, whatever it is, has all been defeated by anti-whiteism. It's all subject to anti-whiteism. That's why the Go Free Dialogic is designed to undermine anti-whiteism itself. White people, given a moral matrix, can change all of this in historical terms overnight. Overnight. So what are we talking about when we're talking about Indians in particular? You're talking about people who are nepotistic in a, not, of course, not all, many nepotistic. I've talked to you before. In fact, I mentioned it again the other day, that you had this situation where the Indian people that I knew, they were always talking about their getting their brothers' jobs, their cousins' jobs, their second cousins' jobs, their third cousins' jobs, people they would call related that weren't actually related. They were just related as in the greater family of their race. It was always this focus. So let me read right out of Born Guilty. For those who might be thinking, oh, maybe Jason is just, maybe Jason's just saying he's been warning us about this for years. Let's see, what page is it here? See, where should I begin? The anti-whites lied when they blustered that serving the spirit of the West was an expression of hatred for non-whites. Now, it's really important just to stop right there for a moment to indicate for any of those out there who think that you need to be negative on some other race of people, that some other group of people need to be harmed for us to be healthy. That is the quintessential element of anti-whiteism that prevents white people from joining you. Do you understand that? White people can be healthy, happy, without harming any other group of people. If you are one of those white people that are saying that some non-white group out there has to suffer for you or for white people in general to be well, you are a purveyor of the anti-white narrative. You are making it manifest in the real world. If you can't follow the morality there that I followed when I was 11 fucking years old, when I realized that if I said to my teachers and the administration that if non-white people, if white people to be healthy means that non-white people have to get harmed, then the only way to achieve the well-being of non-white people is to achieve the ill-being of my people. If you can't do that yourself, then just understand that God gave people different talents, and this is not yours. You need to learn that you can't take a mid-wit intelligence and apply it to the multi-dimensional, dynamical nature of social interaction over time, presenting various and moving challenges to the white race and our well-being, and think that you're going to take a mid-wit approach, flatten it out to 2 dimensions, and say, well, just get rid of the beehive, then you don't have bees. Understand, that's too stupid. I had submitted myself to the service of the West, and yet my friendships with non-whites hadn't changed. They knew they could never be anti-white around me, that I was unlike other whites, apologetic, deferential, self-effacing. So isn't this amazing that there I am, figured out how to defend our people's well-being, how to advance and put an end to our victimization. Successful. And I go out and I'm like, I can teach everybody this, and everybody does it. And then we have our destiny back in our hands. And how have I been treated? They knew I didn't suffer from white guilt and its crippling symptoms, that I wouldn't tolerate anti-white remarks. And I never objected to their racial tribalism, which was central to their lives. All of the non-white groups, non-white peoples that I grew up in and around and hung out with and etc., they all had this their people. They all had this view, this racial tribalism. And you know who had it, some of the strongest, I guess, lines, some of the strongest gravity for racial tribalism? Indians. In my experience. Listen to this. They talked about their people, their customs, their culture, their burgeoning influence and power. I would say Arabs, Indians and Arabs that I grew up with. It was all about their people, their customs, their burgeoning power, the injustices against their people. None of my people doing that. And for those out there, again, who are white and think you're standing up for the white race by slandering some other group of people, note the difference. The successful groups are talking about their people, how they are victimized, their burgeoning power, their strength, their networking. While white people, if they're white cucks out there, they're just selfish individualists. They're like, oh, I don't got, my people is just an agreement of folks on an opinion about a country and an experiment. That's their thinking. And then the other side of the coin of supposedly caring. So that was like indirectly caring for white people by caring about everyone, which is really just a cowardly way to say that you submit to the anti-white narrative and the anti-white moral imperative. Because you're gonna refuse to talk about the victimization of white people. The other side of the coin is hate this non-white group, hate that non-white group. That non-white group's got to go away. That non-white group. This is what works, boneheads. Their customs, their culture, their burgeoning influence and power. By the way, like they would talk about, I mean, do I say it here? Let me just read in and I'll add if I have to. They talked about their ethnic networking and how it benefited their elders and would benefit them in the future in admissions, business deals, job placement, and career advancement. All my non-white friends. I didn't object to it. I saw it as natural. And I just wondered, why the hell do my people not do this? They talked about how their people were moving into this or that sector of the economy, proudly declaring their growing dominance in those sectors of the economy. When the law, does this sound like it'll be good for white people? When the lawful non-white kids talked about getting rich off the stupid public, and when the unlawfully disposed non-white kids talked about schemes to steal or sell drugs, they all excluded their own people from victimization. That was something else that I found absolutely remarkable. That's different between whites and non-whites. Is that these different groups, Indians, Arabs, but specifically it's pertinent right now for the Indians coming in, and there are many wonderful people coming in, but it was amazing how they would talk about protecting their people. Never said, you can go to, and I've gone to 1,000 like quote unquote pro-white white concerned, white sympathetic meetings. And I'm the guy talking about protecting our people. No one else. You can go in there and hear people give speeches, endless speeches about everything else but protecting our people. And then when I complain and I say, well, what about us? When do we get to protect? Well, that will just happen at some point. What do you mean some point, sometime later? None of these non-white groups that are having massive success in our midst are saying sometime later. None of them are saying, you know what, we'll take over this particular sector of the economy after. Not one. Not one. They saw themselves as groups with group interests, identities, and enemies. They spoke of their people as though they were creeping vines in an unsuspecting forest, growing and climbing, growing and webbing, growing and crowding out the other plants, taking the light of the sun for themselves. It was revelatory, insidious, frightening. So that was me. And in this part of the story, I was at a friend of mine, Indian kid's house. I was talking about it in that point of the story. Let's take a look at what he actually said. What Vivek actually said, and then maybe speak to whatever that might be. And I'll take a look at your comments as well. There he is. What's happening over here? Anti-Whiteism Ends With You is with us. Great to see you. Kara Ford is here. Good to see you. I want to bring attention to these two channels. Officer Dominic Izzo and Law of Self-Defense. Both are ripe for swashing and spreading the lexicon. God bless you. Thank you for bringing them up then. Stumbling is with us, says Hales, brother, 07. Salutes to you. Doc Holiday, Jack is with us. Good to see you. MMAC Attack is here. Good to see you. So ultimately, we'll see exactly what Ramaswamy had to say. But bottom line is, from my perspective, and betting on all my experience, is that Ramaswamy, he is race proud. And he wants to bring more Indians in because that just feels good. I wish that felt good to white people. I don't deny a moral thing for him. A moral thing for him to be tribal. I wish white people could do that. The really disgusting element of this is that in the anti-white narrative, it said that we are the only people that do that to the harm of everyone else. And white people will buy it. When the reality is, the white race is the only race that doesn't do it. Like I said, you can go to 1,000 pro-white meetings and not hear a single sentence about the well-being of our people. Doesn't it tell you everything you need to know? Okay, so somebody was slandering me, but not tagging me. Ah, loser. This is probably oh, yeah, I'm right again. A soy guy. A soy goy in the house. Soy goy, you don't have an argument? You just want to show up and slander? This is what they do. This is what these anti-Jews do. You all have seen it a million times. It's beyond just comedy to stand up in America and say, I want to end the victimization of white people, and then have these Jew haters show up and say, the only manifestation, the only work of caring for white people that you are going to be allowed to do is to hate Jews, to talk about Jews 24/7, to talk about Jews from the past, to talk about Jews in the present, to talk about Jews in the future, to talk about how Jews are so bad. And you can't talk about white people at all. Because if you talk about white people, if you talk about ending their victimization, if you have a strategy that works at ending the victimization of white people, well, then you're a Jew, then you're a cop, then you're a rapist, then you're a drug addict or a drug dealer. I mean, it is beyond comedy. This is obviously, these people are obviously a psyop run by the state to prevent white people from coming together. Bottom line. I mean, what force prevents white people more from coming together? White people go out into the world, and the first thing we're met with, like at work, they're like the open thing that can be talked about in our friends circles is that you can be a white cuck. They're like, well, you could vote for a Republican, specifically talking about America, but the same applies to other Western countries. You can be a white cuck. You can say that you're for merit. But it's got to be race blind, and then it just happens to be so race blind that it gets rid of all the white males. So then white people say, okay, we don't want to be a white cuck. I don't want to bring the entire non-white world into the country legally. So, and I'm not on the left side of the spectrum. I don't want to bring them in illegally. I don't want to bring them in legally either. I want my towns to remain super majority white. I want my cities to be super majority white. I want the country to be super majority white. I want to protect my children and my kin, my people. And so I don't want to be a white cuck because that obviously doesn't work. So where else can I go out there? The regime obviously knows that white people are looking for something other than white cuckery. And so they occupy the other with Jew hatred. And it doesn't matter how many generations that the Jew haters, the noticers, the soy goys, it doesn't matter how many generations they fail. And this is what we'll be talking about in a moment. This woman who was incinerated alive. That's where we have reached in America today, where a woman on a subway train in the biggest city, New York City, the most well-known of Western cities, can be incinerated alive. And we'll talk more about it in a minute. And that strategy of noticing and naming Jews and talking about Jews and slandering Jews been in place for generation after generation after generation. And yet we've gotten here. That strategy has failed. That strategy does not unite white people to defend ourselves. The conversation is over with these people. The bottom line is when these either agents of the state or the injured human beings by the agents of the state show up and they're like, no, if you're going to care about white people, it's just got to be about Jews. You're not allowed to talk about white people. When they show up, bottom line is your strategy failed. Into the conversation. Strategy's done. It's over. It failed. Women can be incinerated while alive. So we're pretty much there. It's done. It was done, of course, generations back. Before we were born, it was easy to see that white men were not going to come together to defend our families on the basis of hating Jews. So it failed, and you are a loser if you continue to endorse a failed strategy. Do you understand that? All of you are losers. David Duke, a loser. They're all losers. You are all losers. The strategy has failed. They incinerated a woman alive. There's no more conversation about it. The strategy doesn't work. Shut the fuck up. Anything else coming from these people moving forward is clearly the work of the state or the poor souls that they've injured with this idiocy. And you notice that the people who are those that are trumpeted by the organs of the state that everyone has suspected all along are influenced or outright run by the CIA, that those people are soy goys. Those people are the ones who want you to just talk about Jews. And once the Jews are gone, which isn't going to happen. So this is obviously a psyop by the state to prevent white unity. I mean, say it, write it in the sky. This is a psyop. The soy goying is a psyop by the state to prevent white unity. We have all of the evidence of generations. How fucking dumb. How many generations do you need to watch this fail before you finally say, shit, it doesn't work? I mean, really, how dumb are you? For the love of God. These are really the dumbest people ever. All right. Thanks again. Anti-whiteism ends with you mentioning that those channels that are perfect for swashing. Yes, the soy goy in the house was Mina. Bad Goy says, do you view wearing certain implicitly white things as dog whistles to try and make connections? It hasn't worked yet. As cringe or based? I don't know. Like, you talking about sartorially? Yeah, I wouldn't. Just dress like and act like the best of the white race. Don't try to pick a style or of a group or because anything like that is then fringe. And especially in countries like the United States, where uniformity of like a polo is seen as really comical. Yeah, you don't want to do that. If that's what you're at, if I understand the question right. Late to the party, but just to encourage y'all, we were once a tiny percentage of the globe, and then we decided to change that. We span from Western China to Europe, and we will win KIP. We absolutely will. With the moral imperative, the white well-being moral imperative that you learn in the Go Free Dialogic, it unlocks the power of the West. That means that there could be many different political parties. There could be many different community organizations. There could be many, on and on and on. All of it becomes possible. But without it, there isn't any hope. Cass says, the way you say cuck-servative stops me in my tracks every time, and I have to laugh. That's fantastic. Jessica is with us. Says, I spoke to a random Indian person online, and he laughed and gloated at the fact they were taking American jobs. Yes, I 100% believe that. I grew up with a lot of them. 100% believe that happened. Yeah, it's like a big, like I was just talking about in my book, they're like, yeah, we're totally taking over this. They don't give a shit about the white people that are going without work. They don't give a shit about the white people that they are displacing by taking their job. They never once did they say, God, I sat there and I listened. And I do a lot of reading of people. I'm very good at that. And sat there and listened and didn't see even a scintilla. I only see that in the white race, for good or bad. I only see it in the white race, where the white people will say, well, but what about this other group? The Indian friends that I've had, associates, Arab, they just talk about taking over, not a single thought for the white people losing their jobs, losing their communities, losing their way of life, losing their biospiritual reflection that comes back at them from our creations in the world. Not a single thought to it. So I totally believe that. Thanks for sharing it. 2 of my coworkers lost their jobs because they were replaced by Indians, says Jessica. Wow. And again, what I point out all the time in all of my books and all of my writings and all of my talking, my streaming, is that all Indian people could be wonderful people. They could all be without flaw, would never commit a crime, would never, etc. But you can't take, without these sorts of consequences, different groups of people and mash them together and not have this fallout. They are going to instinctually, biospiritually project who they and what they are onto the world around them. That produces India. If you want to know what they produce with their instinct, it's India. Now, in my opinion, genuine opinion, has been the case for decades. I don't think that there is one culture better than the other, because there isn't a cosmic measuring stick. I prefer Western culture because that is what's in me. It's out there because it's in me. If you're white, it's out there because it's in you. So you prefer it because you feel harmony when it's reflected back on you. When Indians come here, when any other group is present, and anti-whites will tell you this all the time, they'll say, well, they don't feel comfortable. That's true. I agree. But I don't want them remaking my environment so they can feel comfortable, because that makes me feel uncomfortable. This is why there has never been a multiracial, where everybody's mixed together, civilization that lasted for any time at all. In my opinion, you'll have to check it out, because YouTube is out there with a hatchet controlling speech. Havman says, no, it hasn't, Jason. You're gaslighting. What hasn't? You have to tag me this time with what I said, or if somebody else knows what he was talking to. Ardent Party said, gaslighting who? Andy has a question. What do you tell normie relatives? And just so you know, I'm going to jump in because I'm always trying to educate when it comes to this, because of how important it is. We're really running out of time. And it may seem simple, but that's how the psychological warfare controls you, is because the little things, they seem simple, but that's where the control is. So we don't call the general population normies. We are the normal ones. We just refer to them as vagues, because their position is vague to us. We don't know. Might even be vague to them. But let me read your question here. What do I tell the vague relatives and friends who question, criticize your desire to homeschool? That's a great question, Andy. And I know Brandt isn't here, is he? The dean of School of the West.world. And Andy, you should check that out. And a epic resource for our people. And it doesn't have the totality of a curriculum for students yet, but it's working that direction, and it can definitely inform the decisions in education. But it depends on their criticism, why you would want to. I would say, because we're running out of time, we can't mealy mouth and pussyfoot this anymore. The victory, as I've always been saying, is in every conversation that we have. That's where the battle is fought. That's how anti-whiteism defeated the West. In every interaction, in every conversation, every dinner table, lathe, water cooler. So we can't say, for example, anymore, we white flighted further away from the city, for example, because the schools are better out here. We got to say because there's anti-whiteism. So I would say relatives or friends or whatever, they say, why would you want to homeschool? Well, because the curricula in public education is rabidly anti-white. I don't want my sons and daughters who are white to be taught to hate themselves, that their people is an evil people, that they are an exploitative people, that they are a slaving people, I don't want them to be taught this self-hate, this white self-hatred. I don't want them to be white guilted. And so I just want them to learn their reading, writing, and arithmetic. I just want them to learn the tools that they'll need to be proficient, effective adults. That's what I would say. And depending upon who your interlocutors might be, there might be some pushback. There might be like, well, that's what they do. But if anybody tried to act like that's not what happens, I mean, we're so far beyond pretending. I would just say, give me a break. That's so far beyond. Everybody knows what's going on in the schools. It's all over the internet. You can go look at the curricula at public schools today. It's rabidly anti-white. I don't want my children to hate themselves. They're white, and I don't want them to learn to hate themselves. That's how I would handle it. You are, by the way, in the moral position when you're saying that. When you assume that hill, they have to try, whoever is in your audience, they have to try to push you off of it. They have to try with denial. You could say they're denying it's, well, you can deny that it's anti-white, but I know it's anti-white. And millions of others know it's anti-white. And we're just not afraid to say it. It's an immoral thing to do to children. And if they say, well, you could just tell them differently at home. That's when you tell them, that's not how it works. Because that's not how the human animal works. Because this country, for example, the United States, over 90% white. And by the way, it was over 90% of the featherless bipeds, 100% of the population, remember that, was white. We then gave out citizenship after that. But only white people were the citizens of this country in the beginning. Although check it out with CNN or YouTube. But you can go back to that time, and if that was going to be effective enough, you'll just tell them different when they get home. We wouldn't be where we are today, where women can be incinerated alive on a subway in the most well-known city in the world. So no thanks. I'm going to be inoculating them against this garbage, not trying to talk them out of it. You don't want to have Andy, you don't want to have children that energy that I was talking about earlier to emulate their people, to feel like they're from a proud people, a good people, a noble people, an industrious, intelligent people. The young always have an energy to emulate. It's always to do what the elders have done, but a little better. Anti-whiteism turns that into a destructive energy. They take that exact energy and they say, Your founding fathers, your ancestors were evil. And so the kids come back as little rebel hellions to their parents. You don't want that in your life. Why would you want to have that in your household? That's how I would handle it. Please come back and let me know how it works out. Okay, so this Hyman, is that his name? Hyman is a soy goy. And this is the retreat they do. When you point out that all they do is hate on Jews, they then say, oh no, you can be for whites and no, you can't. You can't, because you can only have one focus. Only one focus. Now, it is midwittery that causes you to think in this two-dimensional way that you can just remove the bee's nest from your porch and the bees are gone. That is not the challenge that we face with anti-whiteism. So if you are honest, you're going to say, well, that is how I was looking at it. I was looking at it of, well, you just get rid of the Jews. You just talk about the Jews are doing it. The Jews are behind it. You're never going to get, by the way, you're just never going to get white people to stand with you. It's never happened. It's never happened. It will never happen here. White people are not going to stand shoulder to shoulder against another race of human beings. Peoples don't come together for that. You don't build a people out of a hatred of another. So it hasn't happened, and you had people better than you, right? Richer than you, right? In environments that were much more conducive. You had a 90% white population. You had the industrialist, most beloved industrialist in all of human history, Henry Ford, which is really what Elon Musk should be doing, and these tech people should be doing. Ford took care of his workers like nobody had ever done. He loved his workers, paid them far more than anybody else for the same labor. So you had this most beloved industrialist of all time. He did it. Did it work? And how about the multi-billionaire that you all got all excited about recently? Now he's turned on all of you, the black nationalist. Did it work? So it doesn't work. But you have, at root, a mid-wit approach to a problem that is beyond your comprehension. And that problem is the victimization of white people. The mid-wit approach is that there's a bee's nest on the porch. And if we just get rid of the bees, if I tell everybody about the bees, but you cannot use a mid-wit approach to the problem of our victimization and succeed, as evidenced by generations of it being attempted. So stop with the nonsense of coming to me. I guarantee you, my IQ is probably double yours. So stop with this bullshit of coming to me and telling me with a fucking strategy that's been failing since generations before you were born, and come to me and tell me, oh no, this Jason's wrong. You can care about white people and hate on the Jews. Give me a break. What an insult. I mean, how fucking shit simple do you have to be? I have something that works. We've got hundreds of testimonials. We've made massive changes. All of it is replicable and scalable, if you know what that means. And you're like, no, I don't think so. I think the strategy that's been failing for generations, we should keep doing that. That's one of the things that really makes me despise the efforts, I guess, or the people who are engaged in the efforts in the white sympathetic sphere because they arrest and retard and trouble and undermine everything that's not doing the dumbest possible, two-dimensional, superficial, low IQ take. Just grow. All that I can say for you is grow from this. Learn from this. You're not going to address the dynamical nature of this problem with a two-dimensional mid-wit corrective. Oh, the great Franklin is here. Okay, so this Hyman brings up, this is what the soy goys, they always love to bring up. They're like, what about the 109 countries that they were thrown out of? Hey, Hyman, this is going to be a real opportunity for the mid-wit thinking that's going on in your head to learn. You have an opportunity to socially mature here. That's 109 failures, my friend, of your strategy. But they were kicked out 109 times. They came back in. That's 109 failures of your strategy. 109 failures. I hate midwits. I really hate. I hate the midwits of the white race. I hate them because they can't see how dumb, how midwit, I guess, they are. They're incapable of seeing it. It doesn't, we're at the point where a woman is incinerated on a train and they're still like, let's keep doing the same thing. 109 failures of our strategy. Let's do it again. I mean, shut the fuck up. This is why, like, actual intelligent rulers, I think, cull the population. And it's another, who came up with it? It was Blue Flame. It was the quote by Thucydides. A society that separates its warriors from its scholars will have its thinking done by cowards and its fighting done by fools. That's where the white race is. You know, we're talking about this, and it's really pertinent here with so much of the white race being a joke and as a consequence of anti-whiteism. And where do they turn? Where do they feel comfortable? They don't feel comfortable with a masculine, a very bright masculine white man. They feel comfortable with cowards doing their thinking for them. And then you end up, and therefore you're strategizing, you end up with their great leaders when confronted by authority saying, I'm Mexican. You can't get me, and you can't punish me. I'm Mexican. That's what they end up with. See, this is the exact midwittery. He can't even see it. He can't even see how dumb he is. How is removing the cancer a failure? I just told you that is a mid-wit corrective to a problem that is infinitely, the problem of our victimization, that is infinitely complex and beyond your ability to comprehend. You have a mid-wit. Why do you think your mid-wit approach would work with a problem that's infinitely complex? Have you been able to remove the cancer? Meanwhile, you stock shelves for a living, or you spray the insides of bowling shoes out so that people don't pass around ringworm. But you're going to remove the Jews. Here we are today, with women being incinerated alive. And this is either this guy is part of the regime and disrupting white people coming together in a moral stance, white men drawing a line in the sand and saying you won't victimize us anymore, and here to disrupt it and undermine it, or this is a individual who is so defective as a consequence of anti-whiteism or the drugs that his mother took when she was pregnant or whatever it is, showing up to undermine the actual defense of white people. Kara's asking, that's just a slang term for Jews because these people are, they have to do everything in quiet and in shadows. They've got to hide their power level. All they do, victory for us, the recapture of our destiny, can only take place by winning the conversations at work, at the dinner table, at the lathe, at the water cooler, at the bus stop. These people can't have conversations in those places because they lose their family, they lose their job, they lose everything. Their lives are ruined as a consequence. I mean, just look at what happened to Sam Melia. He was just put up some stickers critical of Jews, couldn't even see his child get born, couldn't be with his family for almost a year, he's still under like house arrest. He can't be at home. He's at like halfway house. This is on his record for the rest of his life. This doesn't take a genius. I mean, what is wrong with the white race? I mean, actually, though, we don't even know if this Hyman here is white. If you remember, about 6 months ago, we had the interaction with a guy who showed up doing the same kind of thing, saying, oh, no, you can't talk about the well-being of white people when you ostensibly care about white people. It's just got to be hating Jews. So I tracked down his Instagram, and his avatar on YouTube and everything was a picture of a beautiful white man, jawline like my own. But then you get onto his Instagram and you go through his pictures and he's like, these two pictures are the only ones of myself that I've shared. And the guy is 100% non-white, South American, Central American, 100% non-white. He had tons of images of beautiful white females in like Nazi costumes and everything. I mean, that's white people. You all have gonna. I can't do it for you. I mean, the morphology of the soy going has the 100% signature of a regime operation to prevent white people from coming together. 100%. So the midwit says, it's not complex. We've been failing at it for over 100 years now. And of course, for much longer than that. But it's not complex. We've been failing for generation after generation, says the midwit. The reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit. Well, it depends on the group, I guess. And then he says, parenthetically, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Okay, well, where does culture come from? Well, if you're an anti-white, they just fell out of the sky. The culture fairy, you remember that from years ago? I did the little bit. The culture fairy flew over and she just sprinkled cultures over the world. And she was really evil because she gave Western culture to white people when she could have given it to anybody. She gave it to white people. So it's just the C word. So culture, according to anti-whites, like Vivek Ramaswamy and white cucks as well, is just your attitude. It's just opinions that you decide to accept. It's just the little wrinkle in the history of it that white people, wherever we go, we make the West, and Indians, wherever they go, they make India. So it's just a little wrinkle to that. Why is it? Because culture is a projection of instinct in its aggregate. That's why you can't have multicultural. That's why when you have numerous races together, you get a cultural arms race that eventually becomes balkanization. In my opinion, YouTube. A key part of it comes down to the C-word culture. Tough questions demand tough answers. And if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront truth. Ooh, he's got a handle on truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence. No, it hasn't. For way too long. At least since the 90s. That doesn't start in college. It starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the mat. Okay, that was the quote from the other. It doesn't celebrate mediocrity. The Western culture doesn't celebrate mediocrity. It condemns and demonizes the white race. That's what it does. A culture that venerates Corey. Okay, we read that. In fact, I know multiple sets of immigrant parents in the 90s who actively limited how much their kids could watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity, and their kids went on to become wildly successful STEM graduates. That's keeping them away from pop culture is one part of becoming a productive adult. More movies like Whiplash, fewer reruns of Friends. Okay. Most normal American parents look skeptically at those kinds of parents. More normal American kids view those kinds of kids, in quotes, with scorn. If you grow up aspiring to normalcy. So actually what he is revealing here is that he wasn't lauded probably by the white girls. All of the Indians I knew wanted white girlfriends, and they did not want them. And so what he's saying here is he was a nerd and he was studying, and the white girls didn't want him. He wasn't lauded. That's the work we have cut out for us. Rather than wallowing in victimhood and just wishing or legislating alternative hiring practices into existence, I'm confident we can do it. We can totally change America, make it even more anti-white than it was. Vivek Ramaswamy. Normalcy doesn't cut in a hyper-competitive global competitive global market for technical talent. And if we pretend like it does, well, we'll have our asses handed to us. So what he's saying is we got to get the best talent. And the best talent comes from the country that looks like a dump. What? The country that has like the fewest number of wonders built by its people. And if they were so coveted, it's kind of like I've said for many years when it comes to the white cucks in America, they're like, God, the Mexicans are so amazing. We need to bring more Mexican. And I would tell them, if they were so amazing, Mexico wouldn't let them go. Dipshit. If they were so amazing, Mexico wouldn't let them go. All the countries of the globe would be trying to get a hold of them. No, you just like that you can pay less because you can have some slave labor. You can pay less for the lawn to be worked on instead of doing it yourself, or whatever it might be. The houses to be built, your appendix to be taken out, whatever it might be, they can pay less. So it's the same thing with folks coming from India. It's kind of interesting too that you have these people on the white cuck side, where Vivek is obviously just anti-white, but they make these race-based arguments about the superiority of other people. So Indians are just racially, they're just superior to white people, according to Vivek. So he's right, though. I agree with him that you're not going to be able to just say, well, you'll have to hire so many Americans for, per however many Indians you hire or something. That won't fix it. You have to address the anti-whiteism in the room. You have to say white men will not be discriminated against anymore. You have to say, you have to promulgate the moral imperative of white well-being, that white children cannot be demonized, their people cannot be demonized anymore, to inspire young white children to go on to do great things. And in the short term, you have to train the population you have, where you're at. You can't import a new population. And if Indians were so coveted, why isn't China importing them? Why isn't Russia importing them to do all their engineer work? I mean, this is so obvious. It's so obvious to me and to many of you because you have the intelligence to get it. But then we have to deal with these midwits that show up and say, no, it's not complex. It's not complex. You can just wish your way, buddy. Just listen, Hyman. Go wish someplace else. Go wish the Jews away someplace else. Because a wish isn't going to stop the victimization. Does it, pal? The wish doesn't stop our victimization. Hero hoping and wishing that something could be done is not enough. If we could only control a Martian space force, then we could defeat them. And here we go again. The cowardice of Hyman, not willing to stand up for white children, white families. I punch stupid. I don't punch right. I punch stupid, and I will always punch stupid. I had a comment earlier today that I addressed earlier in the day about why talk about the soy goys like this clown or the white cucks. Why talk about them? The reason why is because they are competing with us for the attention of the white population. Both of those strategies have ruined our people. Both of those strategies haven't stopped any of this victimization. Both of those strategies have been in place for generations while everything's getting worse. Hyman won't speak to that. Both of those strategies in place. So we have to, just like a company selling a product, you have to talk about the competitive products, the pros and cons. You have to compare to your customers. Look at this little turd. Turd, are you going to speak to the failure of your strategy for generations? What happened, turd? What happened? This is over in the Times of India. I just want to take a quick look at this. MAGA Civil War. Why Indian Americans and tech bros are clashing with pro-Trump supporters. MAGA civil war has emerged, pitting Indian Americans against the far right. And then, isn't this interesting? Groypers. And I wonder, let me highlight that. Isn't it interesting that so often you see this reportage that tries to pigeonhole, like if you're going to be against what they're pushing, then you have to be one of these. It's fascinating. It's almost as if that was created by the regime. Over immigration, diversity, and identity. Like, I am not that thing. So no, the regime is not going to decide where I will defend my people, how I will defend my people. Once marginal in politics, Indian Americans have gained prominence, with Trump courting their support through events like Howdy Modi and Diwali diplomacy. The contrast with the white nationalist collective who oppose figures like tech entrepreneurs appointed by Trump, AI policy advisor, the conflict exposes American immigration. I mean, they are rocking it. So obviously, this is written for American or Western consumption. No Indian is going to know what the groyper is, but the regime wants you to decide that you're one of those things. And then who's your leader? A Mexican. History is full of legendary intellectual battles. Galileo versus the Catholic Church, Einstein, Kant, Hume, debates over GST rates, etc. But as the world celebrated Sir Isaac Newton's birthday, an entirely different intellectual showdown unfolded, a MAGA civil war. On one side, Indian Americans buoyed by tech dominance. On the other, groypers. That's what it is, right? Let's rewind. There was a time when, what is all this? I don't want to go back to the beginning of time. I just wanted to see what you all are saying. All right, a bunch of boring. What's your conclusion then? Is that it? The battle is about what America aspires to be. The groypers weaponize the internet for hate and irony. No, it's not between the groypers and the Indians. God, this is so obviously an operation by the state. While Indian Americans transform the same space into a battleground for inclusion and progress. What? Inclusion and progress? The meme pathogens of anti-whiteism. Ultimately, this isn't just an online spat. It's a fight for the soul of the MAGA movement and perhaps America itself. So the fight for America itself. Are white people going to be further diminished and have the jackboot of an Indian on our throats? And if history teaches us anything, it's never to underestimate the fuel, determination, and the power of a well-placed meme, which I guess Times of India believe that they're going to win. You got it's probably the same guy in the audience here on Twitter live chat as well, doing the same nonsense. White people can't come together and talk about the well-being of our people without this. You can't talk about ending our victimization without this, without it always being rerouted. I hate these motherfuckers. I wish you'd come in. I'm in DC. Where are you? You all are aides of the white race. And because Jew hatred, soygoying, has been in place for generations, failing 109 times, and of course many more times, we have suspect in fatal New York subway burning fans the flames with his shirt, according to police testimony. In case you all didn't know, you had Kathy Hochul tweeting about how safe, the governor in New York, about how safe the subway is. And she was down in the subway surrounded by police and the military, which she had to use, thanks to what? The white erasure of our norms. And while she's doing that same day, an anti-white monster from, where is he from? Central or South America, wherever it is, decided on the F train up in New York that he was going to set a woman on fire and then watch her on fire and then fan the flames as she stood there. And nothing was done. Our norms completely white erased in the population as numerous males of several races stood around and watched the woman standing on her own 2 feet, burning alive. That ain't the West. That's not Western civilization. The West is dead. The West outside of us is dead. And a big part of the reason for that are these soygoys who show up to slander and attack, misrepresent, undermine whites who stand up and demand an end to our victimization. We'll have a look at that article right after at least a little bit of this.
Our souls remain intact. In the heart of the storm, we'll never turn back. They tried to silence us, but we rise again. The tide is turning, this is where we begin. White well-being, we stand tall, unyielding light. In the face of shadows, we'll win this fight. Through the ashes of light, our truth will ascend. Victory is coming, anti-white will bend. We see their darkness, but it doesn't define the spirit within us, fierce and divine. Every strike they land just sharpens our steel. The dawn of our strength, no more.
Cass says, NWG, that was the most polite F-off I've ever seen. Beautiful response, by the way. Thank you so much.
No more hiding in shadows, we step into the light. Their towers crumble as we seize the day. White well-being rising, clearing the way. White well-being, we stand tall, unyielding light. In the face of shadows, we'll win this fight. Through the ashes of light, our truth will ascend. Victory is coming, anti-white will bend. From the depths of doubt, we forge our crown. In the halls of power, anti-whites fall down. With every voice, every hand we reclaim the future of our people, no longer in shame.
That is the great sloth, ladies and gentlemen. The future, why would you have a song talking about our people?
From the depths of doubt, we forge our crown. In the halls of power, empty whites fall down. With every voice, every hand we reclaim, the future of our people, no longer in shame.
Epic work by the great Slots, and that was a Anglo-Saxon NWG song we started the evening with at the very beginning of the stream. I think it's really, surprising or not surprising, but really shocking looking at that Times of India article and crafting the entire conflict between it's going to be the white cucks who endorse the consequence of this anti-whiteism in big and little tech, and then Fuentes it's Rolling Stone, all of these entities telling you that's where you've got to go. If you're going to resist this, that's who you are, that's what you are, that's your leader. Amazing. Talk about controlled opposition. The whole Groyper thing is a psyop, obviously. It's such a psyop. You talk about how is it that people are able to identify color revolutions, but they can't see one right in their midst. This one is a cartoon revolution. Controlled opposition. Stumbling says, I asked a question about lawyers further up. Would recruiting lawyers help us fight anti-whiteism effectively? Unfortunately, no. I've watched over the decades hundreds of, probably millions of dollars wasted in the courts by those resisting anti-whiteism. And in so many of these cases, legally, our position was without question the victor. Black and white in the law. Black and white, we were the victor, and always lost. With fantastic attorneys. I mean, there was a period when there weren't very many attorneys a long time ago. And then, I mean, it was like, what was that guy's name? There was like one main attorney. It'll come back to me. He's dead now. But then there was a period where easily had 50 decent attorneys, decent to good attorneys, nothing but losses. Outside attorneys, great outside attorneys outside of the community, nothing but losses. Even when state and federal law on your side, nothing but losses. And the reason for that is that morality always trumps everything else. Trumps law. So when it comes right down to it, whoever wins the moral argument wins the day. Wins in the courts. Once you trump the moral argument, wins at the ballot box. Once you trump the moral argument, that's all that matters. But these defective people or working for the regime or whatever showing up, they don't want you focused on that. They don't want you to have a moral position because they know that a moral position can contend with the social morality of anti-whiteism. So they want you behaving as the villain in the anti-white narrative. How many white women do these soy guys have to answer? How many white women have to be raped before they'll give up the failing strategy? How many white children will have to be raped by pedophiles before they'll give up the strategy? How many women will have to be incinerated alive? How much of Western civilization do we have to see destroyed before they'll give up the failing strategy? Really should look at these people. I mean, I hope you are beginning in this community to feel the genuine enmity that I have for these folks, because they destroy everything. Every effort it's not just what we're doing. I've watched like secessionist movements that didn't say a thing about Jews. They wanted to secede. There was no focus on that. It was everything else in the world. And these people start getting in. You can't talk about secession. You can't talk about the people of the South. You can't talk about the people of that free Texas. You can't talk about any of those things. You just have to hate on Jews. And then what happens? The good people, good white people, leave the organization. They don't want to have anything to do with that. Connected white people with money, they leave. Normal white people leave. And then all you're left with are these degenerates and government agents. Every single time. My God. Every single time. So I hope you are learning to despise them as much as I do. So awesome to see the great Franklin here today. Tag me with any comments or questions. The great Corey is in the house, I think. We'll be getting to financial gifts and taking a look at this story. Prometheus Thunder. We had an Indian government here in England, and he sold off parts of our land of 1,000 years to India. Wow. And probably for pennies on the pound, pence on the pound, I would imagine. Were you the one that did not get charged? Prometheus Thunder, tag me. Henry is here, says, I think on one hand, it is a fun us versus them mentality to target Jays. And you feel naughty and vengeful. But it brings the anti-white narrative to life and increases validation. It absolutely, you're right, 100%, Henry. Because I've met these people in person, and they're just interested in themselves. They're selfish individualists, just like the white cucks. And they are, you're right, they're just playing. They're having fun at slandering Jews, and like you said, it just makes the anti-white narrative real, and then the good white people leave. You see, we are in this really precarious place. We're between the much larger than the soy goy white cuck movement that takes various forms and entities, and then the group that the regime has set up as the alternative, which are these anti-Jews, soy goys. And every time we end up seeing the government behind it all, funding, or quasi-government, in my opinion, every single time. Doc Holliday says he's starting to see. It's taken him a few minutes. Bear with him. And why does it ends with you talking about how technology is getting worse? There's more bugs, fewer features, worse user interface. 100%. I agree with that. Stumbling says he's getting Spurg fatigue. Vincent is here. Good to see you. Olrak is in the house. Cody is here. Says, Red Eye said, Biospirit of the West last week. What? Did they really? You're kidding. Are you serious? Tag me again, Vincent. What show was it? Do you remember? And what part of the show? Did they really say Biospirit of the West? Oh my God, that will be a massive victory. Imagine how much that'll piss off the soy goys. They do everything they can to poison the well against us. Please, let's find out more from Vincent. Did anybody else hear that from them? Mestizokov is in the house. Do you plan on bringing back Twitter space call-ins? I may. But I don't know that I will do them during the stream on YouTube, because it's those, the Soygoys are really the worst of humanity. And they so bad we're trying to get on and say things that would potentially cause YouTube to victimize me. So you just can't trust those losers. And there are plenty of people in this community that were absorbed by that Borg of anti-whiteism, but had good hearts. And when they saw that, wait, doesn't align with my heart, and this isn't helping, and the people I've talked to in my, you know how many people we've had that have written and gone on at length about how they ruined their life with that soygoying, and then they pick up the strategy of go free. They have a new focus and they begin reclaiming their life. But yeah, it's just when the government wants to push something, it can. This is the cartoon revolution. That's how it will come to be known after it dies off. The cartoon revolution. Just like the color revolutions. They just used a frog in America. Red Ice Flashback Friday at about an hour and 44 minutes. Oh my God. That is epic. I'm going to have to reach out to Lana. That is so awesome. Cindy Ben is in the house. Bad Boy says, is it poisoning the well? I don't know if you quite understand what I'm saying, but let's see. By those outside the group who need the well, whether those self-sabotagers are present, I'm not quite sure. So what I'm talking about is the Soygoys, the anti-Jews. And let me make very clear, I'm not, and never have been, and have gone on at length about this thousands of times, but of course they misrepresent because they're lowlifes, defending Jews or upholding the anti-white mores or any of that nonsense. I'm focused on white people. Hating Jews doesn't end our victimization. There are, without question, anti-white Jews. Without question. But I've said it before, and I've been in meetings face-to-face with people, conferences, where I said, even if every single Jewish, even if by some mechanism in the universe that a Jewish person could not be anything but anti-white, it would still undermine us by focusing on them. We protect ourselves by focusing on us. We defend what we love. We don't do anything to what we hate, except sit around and stew in the hatred of it. This is the human condition. This is the human animal. So it wouldn't even matter if whatever mechanism, every single one, it would still be the incorrect, the failing path to just focus on them. I mean, just once again, how's that strategy working for you? How's it working for you? How many girlfriends have you lost or not gotten? How many times you've been thrown out of the house? How many times you've been fired? How about our civilization? hundreds and hundreds of years of that bullshit. And look at where we are today. And they're like, more of it, more of it. So the poisoning of the well, what they do then is they don't want people to listen to anyone defending the well-being of white people who is not going to say that, well, my pretext then for hating on Jews is for white people. So they go out and they'll say anything that they think their audience at that moment needs to hear to not listen to that guy. Does that tell you everything you need to know about them and whether or not they care about white people? Does it tell you everything you need to know? They won't let white people talk about our victimization and focus on us. Then they go out and they tell other white people, don't go listen to him and that group. Don't have him on. Don't interview him because, let me see, what do you need to hear? Do you need to hear that he's a philanderer? Well, then I'll tell you that. Do you need to hear that he's a Jew? Well, then I'll tell you that. That's what they do. So their behavior is all you need to see to know. They don't give a shit about white people at all. At all. And don't forget, it was not the balaclava anti-whites, balaclava wearing anti-whites who believed that they doxed me. Never forget that. It was these anti-Jews. So you have everything you need to know about them. So they want to poison that well about me. Now, where does it matter? With our, who are we talking to? We're talking to the vagues out there, our brothers and sisters, white brothers and sisters, and more broadly to anyone of any race or background who wants to object to and fight anti-whiteism with us. That's who we're speaking to. The anti-whites have their anti-white narrative where they're saying, well, if you are going to oppose us, you've got to be a white supremacist. You've got to be a groyper. Your leader has to be Mexican, a Mexican Fuentes. That's what they're out there telling everybody. So what happens when a group of white people stand up and say, well, no, we're not going to be what you want us to be. We're going to be who we are. Well, then the soy goys show up and they say, oh, well, those people over there, they're a cult. Those people over there, they are into whatever the audience needs to hear to stay away. That's how it works. Telling you everything you need to hear. When I criticize like these marching into non-white areas and putting up posters, scaring non-white children, because I know that white people are not going to identify with. That's not going to do. This show of force has always been a show of farce. So it's not going to bring white people to our cause. It's not going to make white people think I've got to stand up and advocate for our people and the end of our victimization because I saw some black kids get scared in the ghetto by a bunch of white guys going and putting posters up there. When I criticize that, I'm criticizing it with these reasons I'm listing about how it undermines our ability to defend ourselves, to end our victimization. That's not what the soy goys do. I don't go out and say, ignore the facts of how what a group of people is doing is undermining the effort of whites to recapture of our destiny. Ignore all of that and instead just say, oh, the leader is a pedophile. But that's what the soy goys do. They don't go out and say, well, he cares about white people. And they do successfully in victimization. They do have hundreds of testimonials of people successfully changing their lives for the better, getting promotions, able to work in environments where there are non-white people and yet advocate for the end of our victimization. They do all that, but I don't think that they really give enough. They don't do that. They go and they say, oh, he's a philanderer, a drug addict, a cop. That's all they do. And there are plenty of people in the community that can talk about that sort of thing, having been exposed. And I've talked with them about how they received information about me that wasn't true from soy goys, and then stayed away for years. They would have like a little contact, and they'd be like, hey, sounds like he's speaking a lot of sense. They're having a lot of success, but yeah, I heard that X, Y, or Z. And so they go away. And then finally they come through it all. So, you have all you need to know. Man of War is here. BF is here. Truth for Jesus is here. Good to see you all. Let's go ahead and take a look at this on the screen. I'm not going to show you the video. The video is kind of shockingly all over X of the woman literally incinerating alive, standing on her own 2 feet, holding onto a railing at the door that's open. She's engulfed in flames, standing there. And the anti-white monster that is in this country, because our norms have been erased. You see how the focus is always on us? Our norms have been erased. We have to fight back. We have to defend our norms. We have to defend our mores. We have to defend our customs. It's always about us. Our norms have been erased, white erased. And as a consequence, this anti-white animal, alleged, because he's not been convicted yet, but apparently he admitted to it in one of the articles, it might be this one, is in this country. He also returned. He was captured once in the country after breaking in, this anti-white border crosser, shipped out of the country, and then returned. We obviously should, if we controlled our destiny, there would be nobody coming across the border, even with nothing there. No fences, no landmines like I've talked about before, like they do in Korea, 38th parallel. Wouldn't need any of it. Why? Because if you came into America illegally, you wouldn't be able to get a job. You wouldn't get welfare if we controlled our destiny. There would be no benefit. No one would cross illegally. But having to deal with the system the way it is now, the state of things now, obviously, if we recapture our destiny, the border will have to be mined, fencing put up with ample signs to let people know that, just like in Korea, this is all mined, you'll die. We don't want you to die. So it would have to be signage everywhere. There would be massive penalties for giving these people work or harboring them, maybe even citizenship ending penalties. So if you help somebody come in, charged with treason. If you harbor them, charged with treason. If you employ them, charged with treason. At a minimum, lose your citizenship, maybe get executed. And certainly, if you break into the country, you're caught and thrown out, and you come back, it should be instant execution. They can verify that it's you. No need to go through with a bunch of legal process, red tape, etc. Execute. Then they won't come. They won't come back anymore. But this guy came back. Somehow he had enough money to constantly buy alcohol, to eat, to keep himself alive, to have housing. And this is all the anti-whiteism. This is all the victimization of our people, the fleecing of our people. This community, since we're focused on us, we think then about the ramification of all of that ingenuity, all of that money, all of that intelligence, all of that industriousness that is being wasted on anti-whiteism. And we're able to say, what are the costs of that for us? Our loved ones dying from diseases that could have been cured. Where could we be in the health of our people, the productivity? Where could we already have a cities that are so futuristic that would have made the predictions have fallen far short? How much more leisure would you have in your life? How safer would our country be? I mean, the costs are beyond estimation, but it behooves a healthy people to think about the harm that's been inflicted. Second, third, fourth tier levels of harm and beyond. So this, if he ends up being guilty, and again, I think he has said that he did it, this anti-white animal comes into the country again, and he's eating, he has a place to live, he's got money for alcohol and drugs, and he's on the F train in New York, and he decides, a sleeping woman on the train, that, it's just normal, go set her on fire. What are the white cucks going to do with this story? They're going to turn it into an abstraction. This isn't a victimization of the white race, no. But let me actually pause there for a moment so we can really get our teeth into what we're talking about here. We don't know the race of the woman yet. You can see, while she's on fire, that she has light-colored skin. At least it looks hard to tell. But maybe she's white. Now, that's not in and of itself what makes the attack anti-white. The individual and the attack and the act is all anti-white, even if this woman is non-white. But let's say she's white, for argument's sake for a moment. Let's say it's a white woman. The white cucks won't let us say that she's a white woman. They won't say that it is anti-white and anti-whiteism for this guy to set her on fire and watch her burn to death and even fan the flames with his shirt. They won't say that. They'll turn this into an abstraction about mental health or anything else. Immigration, mental health, and the more obscure the abstraction, the more that they will indulge it. Why is that? Because they too are living their lives in accordance with the anti-white moral imperative, in which it states specifically it is immoral to care about white people. Says right here, according to CNN, I made sure to get the CNN. I didn't actually read the CNN article, but I got that one because, we're on YouTube. The New York subway burning. Let's see. Suspect in fatal New York's subway burning. Isn't that nice how these anti-white bastards word this? It's just a burning. It's like it was just a truck that drove through all the white people at the Christmas market. Not anti-white terrorism, just a truck drove through people. So fan the flames of the burning with his shirt. And there is the only appropriate thing. If we were in charge of our destiny, this guy wouldn't be getting some humane execution. Seriously? Somebody who commits an act, this is pure anti-white evil. The only thing appropriate is to set this SOB on fire. Maybe put him out a couple times. Sebastian Zepeda Khalil, 33-year-old undocumented migrant, so anti-white border crosser, accused of setting fire to a woman who was sleeping while riding a New York City train, was arraigned Tuesday on charges of first and second degree murder and arson, according to a complaint released by the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. The New York City office of the medical examiner determined the victim, who remains unidentified, died by homicide. The cause of her death was determined to be a result of thermal injuries, smoke inhalation, according to the complaint filed in Brooklyn Criminal Court. So, beyond the attack on her, I had mentioned a little earlier that you had all of these adult males of various races, videotaping and watching this woman burning alive. As I said, she was standing up, she was holding onto a railing, and she even turned, let go of the railing with one hand toward all of these guys. This has changed me in some way. This country has become so un-Western because of the white erasure of our norms that the value of life that used to be in the West, the most valuable thing on any street, no matter how wealthy the district or neighborhood, now has the value that you see for life in the other countries of the world, where it just doesn't matter. This is so fundamental of a change that really shows how bad of a state that we are in. This is an enormous moment, as far as I'm concerned. A highway marker on the path, appropriately said here, to perdition for the white race. In a healthy white America, even the non-whites would have thrown a jacket over her and dragged her to the ground and put the fire out, even if she was, quote unquote, already dead and just didn't know it yet, because of the value that the white man puts on life. This is the kind of demonic garbage that you find in other parts of the world, where people can just stand around and watch a person being mauled by animals or trampled by animals. They'll build their train system so that the train will kill thousands a year because life doesn't matter. Like India. It doesn't have the value that we put on it here. We put so much value on life that we will sacrifice our lives for animals. That is one of the fundamental pillars. This value that we place on life is one of the fundamental pillars of Western civilization. And that has been so white erased. Do you know what can be done to you and your white babies and the white babies to come? This is not like the white cucks are going to be getting ready to talk about how the the abstraction of how technology has severed us from reality. They'll talk about anything that might novel take that will interest white people, as long as it distracts them from and redirects them from focusing on the white erasure of one of the most important components of the West, and that is the value white people place on life. You see videos all the time. White people will wade out into frigid waters to save a friggin' dog freezing in the frigid water. They'll dig horses up. They'll, out of mud, they fall in holes. They'll pull cattle up. White people will come from miles away to help save an animal. That's how much value we put on human life. You had, when that plane many years ago hit the 14th Street Bridge in Washington, D.C., and went into the Potomac in the middle of winter. It was freezing. There were people out in that water that were as dead as this woman from the cold. And white guys were still jumping out, swimming out there to get them. This is a big change. And I think that for the people who have been implementing strategies from the past, I think that if they can see this and they won't abandon their strategy, that fundamentally we can call them the enemy. Fundamentally, we can say enough is enough. We have suffered too much for too long with those strategies in place. All of those disparate, nonsensical, ignorant ideas in place and strategies in place. And now we've gotten to the point where somebody's family member can literally be on fire and standing there, and no one does anything. In fact, Zepeda walks up to her and fans the flames on her with his t-shirt. The incident has intensified existing fears about safety and disorder on the subway, giving a troubling trend of recent random attacks. Random. There's nothing random about this. This is a consequence of white erasure. And white erasure is a consequence of anti-whiteism. This was inevitable. I mean, for all of these years past, when I would be giving speeches or at meetings and talking with people, I never even imagined that a woman could be on fire and people would just videotape it and watch her burn to death. But I did say that as more and more of our norms are white erased by anti-whiteism, we'll see the sort of mentality, we'll see the sort of landscape that you see in these other countries of the world that none of us would go and live in. So none of this is random. It is all predictable. It is all exactly what would happen. Not only that, I mentioned Hochul tweeting about how safe the subway is now. And then, what was it, the next day or 2 days, you had another anti-white. Let's see, do I have that up or not? Maybe I don't. Another anti-white who had a knife, stabbed a woman in the throat, and blood all over the floor in the subway, all over the ground, stabbed somebody else. Then there was another attack. This is the consequence of anti-whiteism. You're not going to be safe anywhere. For so long, I used to listen to these people who would come from these different organizations, white cuck seeming, maybe a little bit more edgy, and they would say, oh no, it's going to just stay in these areas in America, these really bad areas, these really bad areas in Europe. It won't make it out anywhere because everybody will see, Jason. They'll see how bad it is, and then people will resist it. No. I told them no. They have no means to resist because of this moral imperative. It'll spread. And that's what's happened. So there'll be nowhere safe. There'll be nowhere you'll be able to escape the devaluation of human life. We can say absolutely without the least bit of concern that it won't happen, that there'll be more videos like this of a human being in the midst of being slaughtered or brutalized or cooking alive, but you'll hear laughter, just like you see in other places of the world. Mexico, decapitated bodies hanging from bridges. That'll happen here because of anti-whiteism. Then the government, this anti-white, multiracial government, will have to do what? Take more rights away, more policing. I told people back in 8th grade, 13 years old, that the government would have to become more repressive to control the violence, to control the different groups going at each other, to control the white erasure. Fears about and safety, a disorder on the subway, given a troubling trend of random attacks, puts a spotlight on several issues major cities such as New York grappling with: homelessness, illegal immigration, substance abuse. So there you have the you're at fault arguments, white people. You're at fault. You're the reason why they're homeless. You're the reason that they are illegal. You're the reason, white man and woman, that they have to turn to substance abuse, white child. You're the reason. Police say Zepeda Khalil approached the victim silently before igniting her clothing, causing flames to engulf her in a matter of seconds. Surveillance videos showed the suspect watching the victim burn from a bench outside the subway car. He did not enter, or it says right here, it says he did not enter a plea during arraignment. Zepeda Khalil claimed he didn't know what happened and noted that he consumes alcohol. A prosecutor said, so here comes your insane plea. Here comes, or I'd go back to high school when the anti-whites, the teachers there used to say, oh, well, if a person's crazy, then I would say, okay, I agree. If they came to me with a crazy plea, I would say, I agree. Here's the electric chair. Here's what we know about an act authorities have described as a brutal murder. You even had a police officer, at least one, and he could have been white, who walked by, looked right at her, and walked away. It's not, do you get what I'm saying? It's not about her at that point. It's about us at that point. It's about us. She's dead, Jason. She hasn't fallen down yet. She doesn't know it. It's about us. Standing right at the edge. I mean, you could have reached out with your jacket through your jacket, grabbed her arm, and just yanked her out of there. And don't be a police officer. I mean, that's what a citizen should have been able to do. Don't be a police officer if you can't do the job. Go flip burgers. Undocumented, anti-white, border crosser from Guatemala had been deported in 2018 and subsequently returned to the U.S. illegally, according to the federal immigration authorities. His most recent address in an arrest report was listed as a homeless shelter. So we're providing him a place to live in Brooklyn. In response to a question about Zepeda Khalil's current address and whether it's at a homeless shelter, New York City Department Social Services spokesperson said, "We cannot disclose." How about we put a bullet in you if you don't disclose? How about the police department arrest you and firing squad you if you don't tell us where he lives? It appears that he was a migrant, an anti-white border crosser, and was removed from the country and then came back. New York City Mayor Eric Adams said Zepeda Khalil was hospitalized Monday night, according to Brooklyn District Attorney's Office Deputy Director of Communication, and then released early Tuesday afternoon, delaying his arraignment. He is expected to appear in court on Friday. There he is. It occurred at 7:30 in the morning. I think they were the only two on the train. They were approaching Stillwell Avenue. This is just saying, like, initially they thought that it was some sort of accident. No other passengers or responders were injured. Great. But here, I wanted to mention this too. We were talking more broadly about how, by way of the white erasure of our norms, the value of human life is diminished to be more in keeping with the other peoples or countries of the world, however you want to view it. But let me point this out to you. If this woman is white, or if she were white, and so I said on that first level of victimization, that this guy is anti-white, he set a white woman on fire, so therefore it's anti-white. The entire cuck-servative establishment, any white cuck out there that I talk to, would push back on me about it being anti-white, wouldn't they? They would say, "Oh, well, it's not anti-white. He's an alcoholic and crazy. It's a mental health issue. It's an immigration failing. It's not anti-white." You know what's interesting about, and then these others out there like the soy goys, I would say, well, it's anti-white. They set this woman on fire, wanting to put the focus on us and talk about how we are victimized by this. And they would say, no, it's the Jews. The Jews let him in. And so the Jews, blah, 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 blah. They'll make it about the Jews. You know what's funny? Not funny at all, actually. But if she was Jewish and this guy set her on fire, no Jew would push back on the claim that it was anti-Semitic. Not one. Well, warranted hyperbole. Now you know why we are in the position that we are in, and they are in the position that they are in. I could go around, if she was a Jew, well, we could say name your favorite online Jew. Of course, mine is Lil Benny. He could go around and tell everybody that this was anti-Semitic, and they would all say, yep, it's anti-Semitic. Targeting, this kind of thing's happening everywhere, probably has something to do with, and then give a list of reasons. Everybody, all of the Jewish people would agree it's anti-Semitic. White people, the cucks, are going to say, no, mental health issue. Soygors are going to say, no, it's the Jews being evil. And here we are. I've been speaking intelligent sense, putting 2 and 2 together for people for decades. And this is still the garbage I got to put up with. Officials condemn depraved behavior. Great. Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez issued a statement denouncing the incident. Great. That's not going to fix anything. In light of safety concerns ahead of the holidays, Hochul announced plans to boost subway security, including deploying 250 additional National Guard members and equipping every subway car with security cameras. So good. They can have nice, clear footage of you losing your life or your eyesight or a limb or a lung, whatever. They'll have it all on a video. Maybe they'll give it to you. And you'll be able to see how you used to be a whole person, if you live through it, how you used to be a whole person and now you're not anymore. I don't know if you have, you don't even have to see the video for this to really change you. It should change you. If you're already in service to white well-being, you need to appreciate even more deeply what we teach here, how important it is, and how everything is playing out exactly as the dialogic says that it will. And therefore, those same tools to reclaim that territory and that destiny. If you are not going free, especially if you're using one of the other strategies, or you're sitting on the sidelines, you think you're just going to be able to go bass fishing. Everything's going to be fine until you get that phone call at night about your daughter or your son. It's seriously time. This should change you. This was right out of hell. I'm going to take a look at what you all have to say, the financial gifts, and then we're going to get out of here for tonight and be back on Sunday. Let's get a big quadruple 07s, crowns and gems for LG. LG came in with a $25 financial gift. Let's get her some Christmas trees. It's still Christmas time. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you for all of your caring and hard work for the community. God bless LG. God bless you. Thank you so much for all of your service to white well-being. That is LG. Let me see. We have Robert down under. Wow. 2 financial gifts over here. Keep it going. Big raucous emojis. Big celebration for Robert. A total of $45 in financial gifts. God bless you, Robert. Big salutes to you. Quadruple 07. He says, "Da City." And Becky's crying missile. Amen, sir. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. The great Robert down under. Swiveling around to here. Keep that celebration going for the dude, the bro, the moment. Big salutes to Dude Bro Moment over here on the Dude Bro Moment platform. Christmas trees and gems. $50 from Dude Bro Moment. Champion, thank you so much, brother. He says, for white well-being. And he also answers, I think he answers the questions here. Ooh, he does. To question number 1, the car name. He has a car named Sandy. Been that way for years, and I don't remember why. So the car's name is Sandy. That's awesome, brother. And question number 2, he said food tastes better when it's cold. So that's one of the reasons why he likes winter. Also, he likes winter because he likes the fog. The fog can be very cool and mysterious. Awesome, brother. Dude Bro Moment. Financially gifting. Great champion in service to white well-being, this hero. I will come around and get everybody's who has tagged me. See what you all had to say. But I'm going to make a quick pass here. Make sure we didn't miss any financial gifts. All right. Looks like we didn't. Aliens Exist is dominating on Premium Rumble. Totally agree. Says Alien Exists. Death by fire. That's how he deserves to go. Also saying over there, I appreciate what you've done and continue to do. God bless you, man. I appreciate that. You're right, Jason. Going free is the only way forward. All the antique nationalism is for the birds. I'm ashamed I didn't know it sooner. No, man, don't be ashamed. Thank you for the testimonial. Don't be ashamed. This is the thing. Our people, we look out into the world and we see our kind being victimized, people we care about being victimized. And then we say, how do we resist this? How do we fight back? And some of us, we go to conservative circles at first, and then we find the massive white cuckery there. And we're like, why won't you talk about our victimization? I mean, we're being victimized. It's obvious. So then we go looking elsewhere. And what does the regime provide you? I really want you to think about this for a second, all of you especially, who came away from these self-destructive and destructive for our people, these insidious means and modes of resistance. Think about today, a lot of the young white guys today. Rolling Stone and so many of these they're all directing them to go follow Fuentes. So you have a lot of good guys that are going to go in there with good hearts, and they're going to think, this must be the way to resist. And then what do they learn? When the regime angles them in a direction, do you think it's ever going to be to the detriment of the regime? Of course not. So they're all going to end up in a place like that, and they're going to say, okay, what do we do to resist? Well, you blame everything on the Jews, and then you hide your power level. And hopefully one day, many hundreds of people in that community will become multimillionaires, and then hopefully with their money at some point in the future, they'll be able to do something for white people. That's what they learn. So good Lord willing, as many of the good ones will find out about us as possible. They'll find out about the work that we do here. They'll say, that's in accord with my spirit. That's me caring about my people. And they succeed. They can talk about our people. They can talk about white well-being. They don't go to jail. They don't lose their family. They don't lose their wife and their children. They don't, etc. So thank you for sharing that, brother. I really appreciate it. Don't think I missed anybody over here. And unfortunately, it looks like on the live chat on Twitter, a soy goy lost his mind over there. And so probably nobody else will be talking over there as a consequence. You came for the Church of the West, but they thought you were just going to shadow stalk Jewish people. Let me check over here and see if we have any comments over here. Stumbling. Yiz must have mentioned no white guilt 4 or 5 times before I thought maybe I should check this guy out. Stubbornness. God bless you for sharing that too, brother. I really appreciate that. See, that's the when in the past we've been talking, especially about the work of the OT, that we need to be a repeated exposure to folks for them to finally say, well, let me see what it is. Let me see. It sounds different. It's not everything that I've learned of before. Sounds very different, but let me go ahead and check it out. So that's the great work of Yiz the Unifier. Finally got through to the and Stumbling has been a Herculean champion. So that is great work. You never know, folks, when you are sharing the dialogic of Go Free with people, you never know where it's going to end up. You never know who will end up taking it up. All right, making sure we didn't miss anybody. Remember, before we get out of here, if you got anything to say in the final little bit, tag me. Nexus Moon was asking about the Guatemala. Yes, I just talked about it. So yeah, what do you think is going to happen? Do they even have the death penalty in New York anymore? If not, we'll be paying for him to live out the rest of his days in climate control, with television, with nutritious food. Won't that be nice? After he committed that horrible act. And if he gets the death penalty, will it actually end up making its way all the way through? What about all the appeals and red tape? The white erasure of our norms, all of this stuff mixed into our system of law and order and justice? Will he be in prison long enough for another Biden or somebody to come into office who will then commute his sentence so that he can live as Biden has done with so many? You have Biden going through commuting the sentence of rapists and murderers, taking them off death row. And if Trump had done something like this, of course, there would be endless interviews and movies made of the family members finding out of the victims and all of their tears. You would know all their names. But the system is anti-white. Truth for Jesus says Protestant white men created the best country this side of heaven. That's true. There's no arguing with that. Cass is talking to Doc Holliday about doesn't understand the reasoning. Those individuals haven't discovered no white guilt in the Go Free method. Oh, what happened in Guatemala? Masumik is with us. Good to see you. Boxing Day in the UK, I thought, was today. Is it today in Australia and Canada? Today, yes, Stumbling says. Oh, so they are going to accept the deportations? Is that what it is? I wonder if we'll have to pay for them over there. All right, folks. It's been another glorious roll-in, as they all are. The battle's going to continue with, obviously, with Vivek and the tech bros. And they're going to be bringing in a bunch of Indians. I'm sure they're going to be wonderful people. They're going to take your job because they're not making more jobs just for the Indians. So that is MAGA. Of course, we knew that this was going to be the case. We said before Trump, before we supported Trump for president, that he wasn't going to do anything explicitly or expressly for white people. And that was not the reason we were supporting him. We weren't supporting him for that to happen. We were supporting a regime, presidential regime, that we would be more likely to be able to promulgate the concepts, lexical and dialectical power to. And for that, we will work. But we will have to contend with, even more than we have over the past 4 years, of course, with the white cucks. And with this brand new Indian presence that is in the Trump regime as well. So not only in Silicon Valley and the rest of big tech, but also in the Trump regime, where you can literally have Harmeet Dillon singing a Sikh religious chant to Wahoo Guru, wherein she thanks Wahoo Guru for creating the United States. None of that's going to be fixed unless we address the social morality of the West, anti-whiteism. We have the answers. Maybe some of these so-called pro-white people will stop slandering us. What do you think? You think we can get that out of them? Probably not. And so, with the great Fournol, I will be back on Sunday. We will be celebrating some more of the victories, talking about the current challenges. And I'm going to be wanting to know how things are going with your families and people you are trying to swash on left, right, and center. Hopefully all victories. But if there are some challenges, let us know. We'll try to address them. But good to see you all tonight. Roll out.
Words only tell me I'm glad that we're through. My heart was yearning, but now I can see the white guilt in my heart is dying away, is dying away. You fooled me a while. You thought you were wise.
heart was once yearning, but now I can say the white guilt